Hey, everybody on YouTube, how are we doing? And I want to say hello to each and every one of you for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for taking the time. Really do appreciate it. Want to say that we have just an incredible show with one of the best investigative journalists in ufology, Cheryl Costa, going to join us. You guys are in for a real treat tonight. If you want to learn all about UFOs and everything that we do, I mean, this is one of the best. I've been looking forward to this show, and man, you know, when Corns, the booking guy, got Cheryl to booked on a date here for this show, I could tell you point blank, it was, we had no idea the timing of and the magnitude of having her on at this point would bring, but it is a good night indeed, and we are glad to have her here, and we'll bring her on here in just a couple of minutes. I want to say a big shout-out to everybody who is here so far. We have Sonia in the UK. Good morning to you, beautiful Sonia. Gorgeous Steph Dickey in Florida. How are you? The lovely and talented Jessica McCreary is here, everyone. Yes. Gorgeous Tina, welcome back. Hi, sultry Sandra. Steam Train Mark in Australia, how is tomorrow looking? Please let us know if we are alive tomorrow. I would appreciate that. Fast Hemi, good to have you back. Welcome. Human Carl's here, everyone. Human Carl, not to be outdone and messed up with Alien Carl, but Human Carl is here, and we're always glad to have a great veteran listening to this show. So welcome back, Human Carl. And let's see, who else is here? We have, scrolling on down, hey, Steve from KPNL, good to have you here. Stu Gerson, right there, buddy. How y'all doing? Sir Wolf, good to have you back. And Simply Coco, you are looking lovely and talented tonight. Antonio, good to see you back. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you. Mr. Apnea, good to see you're awake. Rock Lobster, always a pleasure. Lord of Land, the gorgeous and talented Lori Oliphant is here. Welcome back. And who else do we have? Showtime, welcome for the show. Chris Jarvis, welcome back. Ibarata in Singapore, we love you, man. How you doing? Hello, gorgeous Marie. Troll Ronto, how are you, my friend? Millennium, Jack Clark, Delezion, good to see you here. And I think we're caught up for right now. Cheryl Costa is going to be our guest tonight here. Hi, Tim over in Spreaker. How you doing, man? Good to have you back, man. Hungry Burrito, Cat Chaser, kicking off the super chat tonight. We love you, Cat Chaser. Thank you so much for your continued support on Spaced Out Radio. It's amazing. You just amaze me every night. Thank you. And aliens visit here. Where are they? Now, if my head is looking a little stiff, I'm going to tell you what happened. I was playing Nerf War before the show with my son, and I found a good hiding spot, and somehow I kinked my neck. So now my neck is like really stiff and sore, and it was worth it. Totally worth it. I got a couple of good headshots in on my son, and I think the funniest shot I took was he's wearing pajamas, and I shot him in the ass, and the dart stuck right between his butt cheeks. Yes, he had his pajamas on. It was nude. You know, we don't do that around here, but I just thought that was funny. I had a good laugh with that. Jeff Garvey, good to see you here. Always a pleasure to have you here, man. Thank you for coming in. Kay Kaylee, you are looking lovely and talented tonight. Justin Pollock is here, everyone. He will be signing autographs after the show in the back room here of SOR headquarters, so make sure you line up to the right. Hello there, Michael. How are you, man? Off-World Adam, good to see you. The lovely and talented Kristen Alberg is here, everyone. Simply Sin, how are you? Welcome to our chat room. Good to have you here. Project Blue Book. And we're going to get going here, everyone, in about a minute here. Cheryl Costa is our guest. How you doing, Cheryl? She must be on mute.
Hi.
Oh, there you are. Hi.
I'm doing great.
I'm excited to have you here, honestly. Every time I get to talk to you, I feel like a little kid who's giddy to see their popular aunt. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's the way I feel. I'm all giddy. I'm like,
Thank you.
Cheryl Costa's here. Gorgeous Jules, good to have you here. Cheryl Costa is our guest, everyone. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. A lot of fun. So kick back, relax, enjoy. I think I got my settings done properly. Oh, look at that. Look who's here, everyone. The lovely and talented Sonia is back. Yes, she will be signing autographs later on in the back room as well. You got to stand to the left because, Justin's on the right. Yeah. Poulet de Bleu, bonjour. How are you? Good to have you here. Mm-hmm. All right. Central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including Rocket Out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Cheryl Costa is a New York resident and native who first saw her first UFO at the age of 12. A military veteran, she's a retired information security professional from the aerospace industry. She's been a speaker at the International UFO Congress, where she won the 2018 Researcher of the Year. Well-deserved, by the way. Cheryl's co-authored with Linda Miller Costa the groundbreaking UFO Sightings Desk Reference, United States of America 2001 to 2015. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from State University of New York at Empire State College in entertainment writing and production. She is one of the best investigative journalists in the field of ufology, and we're glad to have her tonight. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, we're going to go to Vancouver, join up with John and the Shift tonight, who's filling in for Shane. We also got the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Dave. Cheryl Costa, always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio. How are you, my dear friend?
Thank you, Dave. I hope you had a good holiday season.
Totally did. And, I think getting together with no family around, being introverted, it was a perfect Christmas. Perfect Christmas.
Yeah. Yes, I referred to this as Christmas under house arrest.
Very true. Very true. I felt for my parents, though, because my parents literally, they live 4.5 hours away from me, and in another direction, my other sisters live about 4.5 hours from them. So there they were all alone. And, when your parents get elderly like mine, my mom is 77, my dad is a little bit younger at 71, and you feel bad for them. You don't want to be away from your parents on Christmas because of stuff like this. But, we all made it through. Thank you to FaceTime, and otherwise it was pretty good.
Yeah, my family was all about 2.5 hours away, and they basically said, "Stay safe, stay away." And we've all been in these tight little bubbles, as they call them, and so far it's served us well. We've lost a couple of relatives to COVID, and so we're very hypersensitive to the issue. I've lost a couple of friends to COVID, and so it's been, in that context, it's been a rotten year.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know what? I hope it gets done quickly, man. Fortunately, because I'm tired of it. This is not life that we are living. It's like living, in some sort of open jail.
Yeah, exactly.
Tired of it.
We frequently refer to it as the alternate timeline.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? You know what? There has been so much UFO news since you were last on the show, Cheryl. I mean, where do we even start? For people who may not know you, I want to just introduce you to them because, once again, I have no problem in repeating what I said. I think you're one of the most brilliant minds in ufology. You're probably one of the top 5 journalists or top 3 journalists in the field of ufology that covers this with proper etiquette and professionalism. How did you get your start in ufology?
Ufology itself, I kind of was in the closet for a good many years. Like I said, like you said in the intro, I had my first UFO sighting when I was about 10 or about 12, and like 65, and it was the middle of an August afternoon, just a couple weeks before school started, and we were coming down off of a hill, and my mother had my father pull the car off and on a little dirt road in the middle of a cornfield, and pointed out this big silver ball parked out there like a rock. And she explained to me it might be something NASA was doing. NASA was only 5 years old at that point. It might be the Air Force, could be a weather balloon. Then she dropped the big one on the 12-year-old and said it might be people from another planet. And we got down to the bottom of the road, and I crawled up in the big back window of an old Chevy Impala, and I was watching that thing, and I said, God, who are you guys? Who are you guys? And when it decided to go, it was like what you see in the movies. It was like, in fact, I didn't see this kind of effect again until Star Trek came along with the gone kind of thing, And the thing like that changes you. And so my mother and I both read everything we could find in the libraries. And when our book copy of Chariots of the Gods came along, she dog-eared on the top, I dog-eared on the bottom. The book was virtually destroyed from all that. But it was one of the few things. My mother and I are somewhat estranged from each other, but if we want to have a good conversation about UFOs, I know I can call her on that topic, and we can have a wonderful conversation.
Well, for you, having that experience being younger, did you ever think, looking at it, you go through Vietnam, and you're a Vietnam veteran. Thank you so much for your service and everything you did in the United States. I believe it was the Air Force, correct?
Air Force, yes.
Yes, so thank you for that. I mean, just an amazing career there. And, you go through this entire, professional career that you've gone through, but you still can't get them aliens out of your head. You just can't.
No, you can't. I found myself being the proverbial reader every time not that I went out of trouble to buy every book out there. I did not. But if I saw an article come by in a magazine, I picked it up and I read it. In 1990 time frame, I found myself in a situation where I came back from a business trip. And while I was on the business trip, I got hospitalized. And I was literally between apartments. I had packed up my apartment before I went on this particular long trip. It was like about a 2-month trip to do my job, and I was getting ready to move, and when I came back, the apartment was not available to me, and I didn't have a place to stay. And a friend of mine heard about it, and he says, well, my father's on chemo. I'm staying with him. Here's the keys to the house. Feed the cat, and stay as long as you like. Well, I got into his house, and this guy had first editions of everything that had been published to 1990, on UFOs and that type of thing. So it literally, and there was no cable. So I literally, for the next 6 months or so, I literally came home, I got something to eat, and sat down and read a book. And it was like going to college for 4 months. It was really fun, and it was all on UFOs. He had everything Stanton Friedman had ever published up to that point. And that's how I got deep into it. But then again, two things to remember. I served in 2 military services, the Air Force and later the Navy. And the goofy thing about everything is that when I got out of the Navy, I went to work in aerospace subcontracting. And again, I was under this security clearance thing. And being a member, we'll say, like a MUFON, was frowned upon. And I really couldn't touch the thing until I literally got out of my industrial military complex career, and that was they retired me in 2011, and it was about 2 years later that I was finishing my degree in the writing, and I went ahead and reached out to a bunch of editors, got chased out of their offices and everything on the topic matter, and finally one editor said, "Let's sit down and have tea and talk," and he was sympathetic, and I started writing the column New York Skies in July of 2013, and I did 236 articles for them over the next 7 years.
Wow. Well, Cheryl, I could spend all night talking about your history, because I think you have just a brilliant career in not only journalism but in aerospace and everything. And I let's face it, you're a 12-hour show. You're not a 3-hour show. You're a 12-hour show minimum. But I want to jump into it right now because
do it.
There's a lot going on in the UFO world. There is the government side, the To the Stars Academy side, the conspiracy side with, the Galactic Federation. There's everything that's going on right now within the UFO community that, as much as it's come together, it seems just as divided now, especially that now that over the last few years, many people have found, Twitter and Instagram and Facebook as brutal ways to go after each other. But I want to ask you point blank, and we'll start off with the To the Stars Academy here. What do you think the impact is to that group with the leaving of the three wise men in Chris Mellon, Steve Justice, and Luis Elizondo?
Okay, this is just one reporter's opinion. Okay. My feeling on the whole thing, I'm surprised it hadn't happened sooner. I think Lou Elizondo said it best recently. He made the comment that TTSA was really set up to be an entertainment venue for all intents and purposes, and him and the other two guys were not entertainers per se. They were investigators. And I'm sympathetic on that because, I'm coming from the entertainment writing and production standpoint. Linda and I, when we wrote our book, UFO Sightings Desk Reference, the first one, we're currently writing the second one. She's got the science degrees. And I tell people that she was quite literally the brains behind the project and that kind of thing. And I've got the top hat and the cane. I got the arts and entertainment degree. And so we make a good team. It was my military experience and contractor experience that gave me the analysis skills that I have. So I can see where it could be a very difficult thing for a guy like Lou Elizondo, who's very nuts and bolts kind of analysis, security, career security officer. I come from that field. To say, hey, enough with the show business stuff. Let's get out there and do something and show people the truth. He was very much one of those guys who wanted that too long held secret brought out in the open, and it's about time. And it just wasn't moving fast enough with TTSA as far as I was concerned. And when they said they're going to leave, I figured, they can do better than where they're at.
That group, though, for as much greatness as they accomplish, and they did accomplish a lot, I know I have been highly critical of them in the past, and you and I have had public and private conversations about that. But the one thing that we do have to admit is they have done a lot for the community. Whether or not they were backing the community, that's an entirely different story. But for the fact that they got it in the public eye and they got it to Congress and talking to senators between Chris Mellon and Harry Reid, they really did a lot in order to branch and educate a lot of people who were just dumbfounded by this entire phenomena, that it was actually going on and actually being real. Where do you think, though, that the downfall was? Do you think it was ego? Do you think it was the rules and the precedents that were being set? The lack of interviews? Do you think it was the lack of public knowledge in this group coming out saying that they were going to be very public and very upfront, and the next thing you know, everything's a secret?
Well, yeah, that bothered me. Right after they got going, I tried for 5 months to get an interview with Lou Elizondo, working through TTSA. And I had to work through their public relations agency. And I kept dropping a guy a polite note. He kept telling me, yeah, we'll get to you in a couple of months, but there's some things going on and everything. And then all of a sudden, I hear him on with George Norrie on Coast to Coast. And my editor and I talked about it. I dropped them a line and I said, okay, we've been polite. We've been asking politely. Yes, we may not be the biggest paper in the world, but you went ahead and gave the interview I wanted to George Norrie, and I'm a real UFO reporter. And I said, I have a problem with that. I said, please arrange. Oh, he tried to blow me off again. And I said, no, here's what's getting ready to happen. We're sitting here getting ready. There's enough complaints against TTSA. We're sitting here ready to write a nice, good old yellow journalism tabloid article about you probably deserve. And God, I had that interview the next day. Wouldn't you? Funny how that happened, you know. And but it was like having. I'm going to use a term from the old Cold War days. The interview was set up that it was just me and Lou on the phone. No, the guy from the public relations agency was sitting there like a political officer for the Soviet Navy. You know, I mean, it was crazy, you know, and it was very difficult to conduct the interview. So since that time, when I went to a couple of conventions, I managed to sit down and have coffee with Lou a couple other times. And a very personal guy. It was nice to be able to sit there and have a frank talk with him without a nanny sitting there ready to scold him or scold me for asking the wrong question. I felt all questions should be on the book. So,
okay, so the fact that the three wise men have now left, what do you think this means for Tom DeLonge, Jim Semivan, Hal Puthoff, and the rest of the crew? Where do they go from here?
Well, frankly, I don't think the three guys who just left need TTSA. I think now that they've had TV series, like on Sci-Fi Channel, that type of thing. Now that they've had that and they've been debuted, people know their names. TTSA is I don't think they need TTSA at this point, and I don't think they need the crap that TTSA puts upon them, personally. The thing is I sort of saw this coming up to a certain degree. A bunch of us have known for a long time that everything kind of went into suspended animation as far as more revelation from the government during the Trump administration. It wasn't because of Trump, but there people who wanted it to come out just didn't feel it was a safe place for it to do it. And then we started seeing things like after the release of the stuff of the Nimitz stuff, all of that thing, the December 17th stuff, 2017. After all of that, we saw this thing where it was going to be possible that we might be able to get instead of drip disclosure, might be able to get splash disclosure. But I was literally told by the best minds in D.C., and remember, I lived in D.C. for 30 years, so I'm sort of I don't even put myself in the same caliber as Steve Bassett. So, but I have guys like him. I have their ear, and they were telling me this stuff wants to come out, but it's not going to happen. It would have happened with Hillary. It will happen with Biden. And I got a phone call early this year. It said, and this was before COVID, if after the Nimitz thing, all these congressmen and senators went out and got briefings from the Navy. That's unheard of. Nobody wanted to touch it. Other than Social Security in the United States, the other thing that's the third rail of politics was UFOs. Okay? It was political suicide to even mention you were interested. Suddenly we got congressmen and senators going out and getting briefings from the military. It was real. It's not all tinfoil hat stuff. And then we started seeing some military support bills passed to get information released. Guys like Rubio, where Senator Rubio were getting these briefings. So the word I had back at just about the beginning of 2020 was there's probably going to be congressional hearings. And he said, if this person that reached out to me says, you and Linda are the only people who have ever published a book of statistics. Even Blue Book didn't do that. He says, expect to get called. So we've been scurrying around trying to prepare ourselves for such an eventuality. Now, I don't know. Are we going to get called, or is a congressional hearing, if they do have one, just going to call in a bunch of swaggering Navy pilots or something? I mean, it's a matter of who they consider credible. But if they want science, we gave them science. So we'll see what happens there. But I think we got to get through. Nobody saw the COVID thing coming, and that has changed the model for a while. And now that Biden's in, I'm hearing buzz that this is probably gonna happen. But I think we got to wait till a few more people are vaccinated before we're going to see any kind of public hearings in Congress.
The way the political side has really embraced this after decades of denial, ridicule, and, as you say, faux use of wanting to admit that you're interested in this topic, a lot of that credit does go to the Stars Academy, Chris Mellon especially, for wrapping these guys in. Cheryl, we have 3 minutes to go before we have to go to break at the bottom of the hour. How do we give credit to such a man for bringing this out? Because Chris Mellon seems like the type of guy who doesn't like a lot of credit. He likes to work behind the scenes.
Yeah, I that was one of the things that I liked about him. In fact, he came from the great Mellon family, Mellon Bank, and all that kind of thing, and he really brought some credibility to the table. You know, when a guy like him comes forward and says that this stuff is real and there's a bigger story behind it, that impressed me a great deal. I would love to interview the man, but you know, I'm not going to get that opportunity for quite some time. I just do not have the connections to him. But and everybody I've reached out to, nobody seems to be able to touch him. And I was going to ask TTSA for it, but I gave up. I don't like working through their public relation agency. So
you need his email.
If you've got it, pass it along to me, please.
Oh, I'm not going to say if I can or can't drudge something up, but you never know. There might be a belated Christmas present for you.
Oh, thank you very much.
You know, but, you know, the way that this has kind of been taken seriously, and in the next half hour, we're going to get a little bit more serious into this, you know, because it's a big thing that's happened this year. What have you seen changed in the fact that government officials have really stepped it up to the plate, taking this phenomena seriously?
Well, okay, back during the early part of our lockdown, they had that release, that story that came out about that referred to the Nimitz the video and all that material, and it basically confirmed the New York Times political story back in December of 2017. I had a talk with Ralph Blumenthal about that, and he was the one of the authors of that article. So they were delighted that their article was confirmed by the military. And now we've also heard that Navy intelligence is basically taking the lead on it. Now it's not faceless people. Okay, it's not those faceless men in black. We know Navy intelligence is working it. So I'm very excited about the fact that this is happening. I think, but where it hasn't changed at the local level in the media, and it hasn't changed with some of the congressmen. I wrote my senator, who is Schumer. I wrote my congressman, who happens to be John Katko, and told them that Linda and I are available with all the data we have, should such hearings happen. And as usual, all I get is silence or crickets. You know, so I don't know where this is going. We'll see.
Well, I mean, that seems to be the answer with everything. We'll see. And you know, I mean, as someone who's a journalist, highly trained as yourself, and many other key researchers in this entire phenomena and this project, that's all we can do is see up to this point. And we're going to see you right after we get back from the break. Speaking of seeing, Cheryl Costa is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, UFO Truth, all night long, with one of the greatest researchers that we have in North America, Cheryl Costa, on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we're clear.
Okay, you're going to walk the dog?
No, that's next half hour. Next half hour. Oh,
that
man.
went smooth.
Fast. Very fast.
It always does. Time evaporates when we do this stuff.
I know.
I've had a couple, you and a couple of other hosts that do the 2 hour show, and we blow through 2 hours like it's 20 minutes, you know. So
Well, that's what I said. I mean, we need a 12-hour show with you. We really do. And, there'd be a lot of coffee and a lot of bathroom breaks in between that. But my goodness, that'd be phenomenal. Phenomenal. It'd be just wicked. Wicked.
when we go into the break, go back into it, I can tell you what, I think I sent you that little thing telling you what
Yes.
Linda and I are getting ready to publish. And what we're hoping that will generate another New York Times scale article, because as I said in the note, it's going to be the largest publication of UFO data ever published. And we're hoping a splash like that might actually help inch things along, maybe get somebody in the government pay attention to us. But what's interesting for me is, like, when the Sightings Desk Reference book came out in 2017, Linda is a librarian, and she was able to observe that the Congressional Information Office bought several copies. So, it's, somebody's looking at the material. So,
By the way, check your messages on Skype.
yes, I see that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. What's the temperature in 108 Mile right now? It is -4 Celsius and 24 degrees Fahrenheit, with snow about to start falling for today and tomorrow. And
we got 6 inches here yesterday.
Oh my goodness. It hasn't even really felt like winter here. We had a couple of cold days, but it hasn't been ugly yet. That's February. Yeah. That's what February is for. About 3.5 weeks ago, I had a really bad slip and fall on ice and just screwed up my entire back and neck.
Ow.
Yeah. At one point, I thought I broke my hip, and but thankfully I didn't. But I'll tell you, since then, like, my neck now, oh my goodness. And I couldn't get to my chiropractor today. They called me because I have them on, have me on the emergency list, just in case somebody cancels, or the cancellation list, pardon me. Somebody cancels, I could quickly get there, and I couldn't make it today. And I was like, darn, I hope I can get through this. And then I'm playing with my son tonight, and I kinked my neck. And now it's bad, real bad. But that's okay.
No, I get that. I get that a lot. My chiropractor hooked me up with one of those devices that I've got. I put the little electrical pads on myself on certain muscle groups.
I got one of those for Christmas. So Dr. Ho?
Oh, yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
I've got. And I'll tell you, I can sit back after 5 minutes of putting the patches on and programming the thing up. I can sit there and just have all these little electrical pulses making the muscles work. It's been a godsend. It really has.
I may actually go get mine next break. I may. No, it's heaven. Yeah, by the way, audience, if you haven't got a Dr. Ho electrical pads for muscles and joints, you're missing out. You need one of those. Hey, Austin, how you doing, man? You definitely need that. We've got just over a minute here.
Okay.
Before we're going to come back. Yeah. Yeah, Dr. Ho works very well. Very well.
What's interesting is Linda had a book on Chinese medicine, a really sophisticated book, come across her desk in her day job in the library, and she works for a university. So she knows that I suffer from tendinitis. That's the ringing in the ears. And they had some solution to that. And so we're in the process of we got some referrals from people, Chinese Americans that we know, that are referring us to a particular individual who's like the ace acupuncture person.
Of getting rid of tinnitus?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
God, please let me know. Please let me know if that works, because, dude, I have it so bad right now, and I can't handle it. Hold on one
Go ahead.
second here, Cheryl, because we're going to get going. Thank you to Kay Kaylee and Cat Chaser for the super chats. We're going to kick off the second half hour of the show right now, everyone. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Dave Scott here. Thank you so much for tuning us in. We really do appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including Rocking Out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with one of the most talented investigative reporters when it comes to UFO research. Cheryl Costa is with us. And Cheryl, right before the break, we started talking about the governmental side of UFOs. And in 2020, it's really become a topic that has not only been spread across the mainstream media, but has also been spread across, healthily, I should say, by Washington State, leading to Marco Rubio wanting to make it part of the annual intelligence budget. That was a big move.
I was impressed when I saw that. I was impressed. And, that's going to be able to give us public visibility into some things to some degree, But I was delighted when I saw that, and we'll see where it goes.
Okay, what was your biggest, maybe couple points on learning about that, and what's the importance and significance about that?
Well, the fact that there would be some open visibility up until now, probably a lot of the stuff to do with UFOs and investigations and all this stuff was always sort of hidden. And to some degree, they were able to protect themselves with the research by handing it off to subcontractors who are not obligated to be on the public record about it. And so there was just no way to find a paper trail to either investigative research or whatever. And and the fact that it was so much of a touchy subject, ever since the Condon report back in 1968, the topic matter of UFOs has been verboten. It's just not acceptable. It's my third rail. I mean, the goofy thing was he painted a picture, and I just did this in one of my articles recently for UAP Research. He set this whole thing up that nobody in academia or in government would be able to get funding to do research. Now, what does that say to us? Well, to make anything, people are always saying to me, well, Cheryl, where's your proof? Okay. Proof is generated by organizations like different government agencies that do research in different sciences. It's done by the National Academy of Sciences and that type of thing. And what a lot of people know, everybody in ufology knows that the Air Force got out from underneath, got the political and PR aspect off their plate at the end of the Condon report. But you know who signed off on that Condon report back in 1968? The National Academy of Sciences. That's very few people know that. My spouse Linda used to work for the National Academy of Sciences, so she has an inside track on that aspect. The goofy thing about all of this is the fact that Dr. Condon fixed it in such a way that for the last 50 years, we've been in a situation where there was no funding in the government. Nobody in the government could research it. Nobody in the academia would touch it with a 10-foot pole because there was no funding or grants available to do anything. And then the New York Times back in 68, after the Condon report came out, basically said, oh, it's all hogwash. There's no such thing, and so it became that fringe tinfoil hat thing. And I think the positive thing from my viewpoint was after the revelations of 2017. A lot of people look at that one article, December 16, 2017. Oh, that was disclosure. No, 2017 was a disclosure year. Okay. back in the early part of the year was the Obama era. Back around January, there was the Obama era disclosure that was the release of certain CIA documents. Well, anybody who'd been tracking the CIA for years, they used to say, "Oh, we don't have any UFO research going on," and then all these PDFs hit the National Archives. Suddenly, we're seeing PDFs of OSI, Office of Scientific Investigation at the CIA, pulling their hair out about things that Linda and I were pulling our hair out about when we were researching the data, you know. And I wrote an article about that for Syracuse New Times. It was so funny because they said, here's their little rudimentary chart with 129 data points, you know, showing there must be some kind of a seasonal pattern to this. You know, is it asteroids? Is it summer madness? What is it? And of course, when the two of us come along with our charts, we had, 1,500 data points, and we show a very, very, very solid curve. So that was very confirming. And then when our book came out in March, New York Times took an interest, and their argument was, wow, instead of everything being anecdotal stories, here's somebody who did the science. Okay, and then they did a story on us. And if you're listening in the audience, if you Google NYT for New York Times, NYT, Costa, C-O-S-T-A, UFO, you'll get an April 24th, 2017 article that says people are seeing UFO. The headline was "People are seeing UFOs," and this book proves it. And that was the next hit. And then 8 months later, they dropped the bit about the Pentagon and the research that guys like Lou Elizondo. So 2017 itself was a major disclosure year just in itself. The fact that a major newspaper, or actually two newspapers, Politico and New York Times, went out there and broke that story and are still breaking stories. And so I was delighted to see that, because I was working for a little small paper, and people tend to ignore little small papers sometimes.
I got to ask you, in regards to the whole disclosure movement that people have been, waving the disclosure flag around since that New York Times article, are we in a disclosure mode, or are we confusing disclosure with confirmation?
A little bit of each. Disclosure has been okay if you look at it from the government standpoint, but our brethren within the media community, maybe a New York Times type of paper exposes the thing initially, but when you get back down to the local level, trying to talk to editors and news directors, since that time, I have tried to get upstate news directors and editors to talk to me, either one to get picked up with a gig with them, or to just, hey, let's do a story together. I've got all the data about these major capital cities here in upstate New York. And I got laughed out of their offices. It was almost as bad as it was when I was first looking for a job back in 2013. They're still not buying into it. And it's that scary thing. Steve Bassett made a point to me about, are they watching their careers at that level that they won't move up if they run a story like that, or is there some other fear to say, well, we're not gonna tarnish our newspaper or our television station with that nonsense. We don't know what the attitude. All I know is they'll run a story if it comes across the wire, but they won't originate a story, and that's what creeps me out about it.
Okay, so for many people who may not understand, what is the definition to you in the difference between confirmation and disclosure? I know what it is for me, but I'm curious to hear your part, and then we can talk about it.
Well, okay, I think confirmation, we've had people for 70 years that have gone on the record and said, these things are real, military generals and things like this. I guess there's people who feel they have to have somebody, the Pope, the president, somebody stand up and say these things are real. Okay. And it doesn't seem strong enough. It's just coming from some other leg of the government, and I don't know what they're expecting. I really don't know what they're expecting. Are they expecting the president to come on television and say, hey, by the way, like they did in independent states, hey, the question of whether or not we're alone in the universe has been answered. Um, Nobody wanted to put their foot in it, and that's the scary thing, is that it was ignored. It was easy to ignore, not to touch, and I think I am of the impression ET is pushing this as well.
How come?
Um, I think okay, well, there's two schools of thought. One school of thought, if you listen to the four presidents that went on Jimmy Kimmel and got that question, they all seem to act like somebody was putting pressure on them not to say the truth. Okay. And then there's if you look at polling data, it says that 36% believes, and 42% are on the fence, and 70% say it's hogwash. Well, 17% is in the order of about 48 million people, adults in the United States. That's an awful lot of people who would get freaked out if it came out that all of this stuff is genuine and real, and your uncle and your aunt are not idiots because they're tinfoil hat types. Okay. I'm shunned in my family for this sort of thing, and that's the thing that's disheartening about it, because it's left a lot of people out there. Well, I'll give you an example of how much of a third rail this is. Okay, I work with a therapist for. I have a depression issue because I'm estranged from my family. And he keeps me on an even keel. And we've had long talks about the therapy stuff. And I've been working a lot with interviewing a lot of experiencers the last couple of years. And I brought this point up that, they're having trouble. Some of these people are having trouble finding somebody, a therapist that's sympathetic and won't laugh them out of the office. So he guided me on it. And I wrote a letter to the New York State social workers counselors organization, offering to get them a presentation on the state of the situation with like my numbers and things like I do at a convention. Crickets, silence. I wrote a second letter at his recommendation. Again, silence. 3 letters and nobody's interested. And the goofy thing about, if you look at UFO research, is for years it's always been driven by the hardware people, the sciences people, the physics people. Okay, and this topic matter really needs to be looked at by some of the soft sciences. The sociology, the anthropology people, things like this. I get laughed off the campus when I call up a major university and try to get a chair of a anthropology or sociology department to talk to me about the topic. They're afraid to even have me come in and give them a presentation, a sane scientific presentation, and I do it with my journalist credentials, and they're not interested. I've had I reached out to about 8 universities in upstate New York and northern Pennsylvania. Only one took me up on the thing, and they had me up there for 2 days talking to journalism students. But that's it. And it's so funny, you can't get them to talk to you. They're afraid of it. Well, okay, people say, well, why are they afraid of it? It's the same thing that Galileo dealt with, but some of the bishops and cardinals would not look through his telescope because they were afraid that what he was saying was true. They're afraid of the information. They're afraid of the truth. And to some degree, I have people come back to me online, on social media. I say 30% of the sightings are the real thing, okay? And Dr. Valet says 80% is noise, 20% is real. MUFON says about 70%. Linda and I came up with our own formula for what we think is real. And the bottom line is, there are people who are online say to me, oh, no, it's got to be 10%. Oh, it's got to be 5%, Cheryl. Oh, it's really got to be 1%. In the article I just wrote for UAP Research, I said, hey, those people who are saying 1% are scared, are not comfortable, and quite literally, I said at the end of my article, they need to go to bed with a nightlight because there's bigger issues to be scared of, and I don't think ET is the thing. I wrote an article. You wouldn't believe how much mail I've had from people who say they'd read one of my articles and, are they here to eat us? And that has been the propaganda from the movies for 70 years, So there's all this fear out there, and fear of the unknown. And I really think it all needs to come out. Now, on the other hand, we're going to have the situation. people who are expecting to see the president get up there, maybe with the chief of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, maybe a couple of key people from the cabinet, something like they're standing there and saying, yes, these things are real, people, maybe even have an ambassador, a tall white or one of the Nordics come out, and say, hi, we're from Pleiades or whatever. That's what people are saying. That's what people, I suppose, want. They say they want. But, what we say we want and what we really want is two different things. I think it would scare a lot of people. Look back in 1930s, we had the War of the Worlds, okay? There were people literally in their backyards with a gun to their kids' head because they didn't want the Martians to eat them. And when we had our Roswell situation, it was barely 10 years later. I think that was the big fear in the government. Look what happened 10 years ago. Do we want that to happen again, with the real thing? And I think that's why they were cautious and sat on it all these years. They were afraid that people were not educated enough. But then again, remember, back in the late 40s and 50s, aliens were slimy, bug-eyed, green-eyed monsters, okay? No matter where they came from, okay? These days, aliens are some of our most revered fictional characters. Luke Skywalker's an E.T. if you think about it. Mr. Spock is an E.T. if you think about it. And Doctor Who is an E.T. if you think about it. So there is all of this, and I think the big fear is they're going to upset the controlling mechanism over culture has been religion, and they're upset about people not being able to deal with it. And I've talked to the past year. I'm a Wiccan priestess, actually retired now. But for the past year, I was actually a member of the Regional Clergy Council here in the upstate New York area. And it was interesting to bring this topic up one day in a meeting, and almost everybody said my religion can stand that truth. A lot of clergy told me that. There were a few that couldn't, but most people said they could.
Cheryl Costa is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Cheryl, my definition of confirmation is that it's an easy way to divide one of the great debates that we have. And I always joke on this show saying when you've never had an experience, it's never aliens. But once you've had an experience, it's always aliens. But there is a little bit of, flowering of the truth there, because we're not allowed to talk about UFOs or UAP and aliens at the same time.
Yes.
We've been forced to separate the two. I know this is done on purpose from the amount of people that I have talked to, but to me, we're allowed to confirm that UFOs are here, but we're not allowed to disclose that aliens have visited here. That's the way I look at it.
Oh, I agree 100%. I had an argument with an editor I was talking to about doing a story about it, and he said, "Well, they can't get here from there." I said, "Look, it took 3 months for Columbus to get here. SST does it in 2 hours. The airliners do it in 6 hours. I said maybe they know something we don't, just because we don't understand that aspect of physics. Well, when you really beat it to death with this guy, I looked at him. I said, what you want is confirmation. You want a cracked up starship in the mall parking lot. You want a dead, burnt, bleeding alien laying there on the pavement. That's what you want."
Okay. But we're not going to get that.
He got creeped out.
But we're so not going to get that, though.
No, we're not.
I mean, the way I always see it, and I tried to explain it to a lot of other people, and it's amazing how many people don't want to listen to this, especially if they're relatively new to the UFO community. If it's not ours, it's not the Russians, it's not the Canadians like me or the Americans like you, if it's not the Chinese, if it's not of this world, it's someone's. That makes it alien all the time.
Every time, exactly. I taught, one of the biggest problems I saw, and this goes along with it. This is some of the guys from the Nimitz. I had a chance to sit there and have coffee We were all in the vendors room at the MUFON UFO conference about a year ago. And I was talking to these guys away from just the nuts and bolts aspect. These were guys that worked in CIC, that's Combat Information Center, this type of thing. I've worked in Combat Information Centers, so I understand the talk and I understand the buzz. We were all Navy vets, and so we were sitting there having this conversation, and the biggest problem most of those people said they had, remember I said the soft sciences issue? They had a secret. Their reality had been rattled. Their reality had been confirmed. Oh my gosh, these things are real, and they couldn't tell their families. And some of these guys almost lost their marriages because of the stress it was causing them, because they couldn't tell them what they knew. And in some cases, the wives seemed to think, oh, you're having an affair. Who is she? You know, that kind of thing. So this is all part of this keeping a secret thing. It's a credibility thing. And I think if the government truly wants to get some of its credibility back, it needs to be square with this with some kind of confirmation.
Okay, but getting the governments of the world, namely the United States, and I've been told recently that it's not just a United States issue or phenomena. There's the big five out there that are really paying attention to this and working together. So United States, it's England, Canada, France, and Australia that are all working on this together. And so when something happens in Australia, the Americans know about it. When something happens in Canada, the British know about it. You know, we are having these task force work on this, and yet there's such a silence about it. Is that due to the fact, as we got about 2.5 minutes here, is that due to the fact that we're trying to harness it in to learn what it is, or do we want to keep the military-industrial complex going?
I think a little bit of each. I truly believe that they want to glean some technology for themselves because they think it will give them an edge, and it's a legitimate thing. If you're in the military or in a military industrial complex, it's a legitimate thing to try and always get that one-up technology. But I think there's also the idea that they're afraid it will affect. For the longest time, I know you heard this for a long time. Oh my gosh, it will kill oil. Now, COVID killed oil. When you think about it, back when it was negative $40 a barrel, back many months ago. So, that woke people up. If nothing else, this year has been a wake-up call in the sense that all the things we were always told would destroy us didn't, not in the way we thought it would. And I think confirmation is the thing most people are asking for, but there's a we have a saying in Wickacraft, be careful what you ask for.
Oh, very true. You do have to be careful, as we got about 45 seconds here. Looking at the entire subject, is the government, never mind the people, is the government ready for this? Are the elected officials understanding the ramifications?
No, they're clueless. If you've ever worked with government agencies from the contractor side, you realize that people always talk about these grand conspiracies and a cabal. They're not that well organized. They really are not that well organized. Maybe at some very high levels they might be, but even then, they're more worried about their politics than something like this.
Well, it is about re-election.
Yes, it always is.
I mean, the quickest way to become rich is get elected.
Yes. So it comes down to, well, if you talk about this topic matter, all the sane people, as they think, will not be interested. And there were people who criticized Hillary when she was running on the idea that, oh my God, she's going to taint herself with that. But there was a lot of people pulling for her on the idea maybe we will get to the bottom of it.
For sure. Cheryl, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the top of the hour. Investigative journalist, reporter, researcher, author, Cheryl Costa. She's one of the best in the field, and we are going to continue our conversation in hour 2 of the UFO Truth right here on Spaced Out Radio with our special guest, Cheryl Costa. All right, we are clear. and I'm just going to run my dogs outside. I'll be right back, okay?
Enjoy. I've got to go find a restroom.
All right.
I'll be right back.
When visiting Canada's west coast, open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
Hey, Space Travelers, this is John Russell. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little different. We're not some fake organization. Our goal is always to find then we give those items directly to the underdog who goes. To become a donor to Space Out Radio is a charity. By charity.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and we have some cool swag for you to pick up. All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do, what to do.
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce.
All right, I am back. And my headphones dropped, but that's okay. Hey, we got a bunch of newcomers in here tonight. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you don't mind, because we are 120 away from, or 118 away from 10,000 subscribers. We are trying to get there, and we're close. We're real close. We could use your help if you don't mind. Hi, J. King. How you doing? Pink Dude, welcome. Thank you for coming to our chat room. YouTube is, or was, I don't know if he's still here. Joshua S., welcome. Bim Jim. Get yourself a Bim Jim. Oh, yes. Hi, Cheryl.
Okay, hey, when we come back, ask me about what clergy told me.
Sure.
I got something cool to share with you. And then another aspect, ask me about Hollywood. I've had some very significant conversations with Hollywood people in the past couple of months.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Chris Reap, welcome. Hi, I appreciate that. Tagging us in a Joe Rogan post on Instagram regarding the new disclosure by New York Times. I didn't get that. Did you do it on the Spaced Out Radio one or my personal one, Dave Scott SOR? Let me know. Oh, there she is, everyone. There she is, Alaska's greatest athlete, the gorgeous and talented Emily Bigelow. There she is. Roy Boy, what's going on, man? Good to have you back. Tonentzin, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. Chris GP, good to have you here. And we're on in 25 seconds. And go from there. Mr. Apnea is still awake. That's always a good sign, everyone. Yes. He's like Punxsutawney Phil. When he's asleep, doesn't see his shadow, it's always dangerous. It's always 6 more weeks of winter. But he's awake. That's a good sign. All right, here we go, everyone.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and Facebook Spaced Out Radio.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it, especially those listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on KPNL, TalkStream Live, and Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hadaharia. Hadaharia is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Tonight we continue on with Cheryl Costa, one of the top investigative journalists in North America when it comes to everything revolving around ufology. She's an author, researcher, statistician. There's nothing she can't do. That's why she's one of the best, and we're glad she's here. Cheryl, welcome back.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We appreciate you. And, right before the break, we were talking about the political side of everything, and you kind of touched on the clergy a little bit, that many religious leaders that you have chatted with believe that their congregations and their people could handle it. But there is so much more to this. I mean, you think about it. Half of this planet is still very, very well versed in some sort of Christian or religious ideology. And I don't know, especially a lot of the older religions, if they could handle the truth that there is life out there in the world.
Well, yes. To some degree, they say. Well, even the Pope came out a few years ago and said, it goes back to the old line from the Bible of my Father's house has many apartments, or something to that effect. And I think that is a metaphor for the fact that there's a great deal of life out there in the universe that was created by the all-encompassing creator, maker of all things, as they say. But, I've talked to priests, I've talked to Episcopalian clergy who have literally told me, and they can't tell me details because it's under seal of confession, but they have told me, I had one Episcopalian clergy just bend my ear for the better part of an hour. We talked about the fact that he's had more than one military pilot say, we can't catch him, I've tried, I saw him, and we were told to keep it a secret, and I have to get this off my chest, Father, that kind of thing. I've had Buddhist. I lived in a Buddhist monastery for 7 years back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I've had lamas tell me, "Oh yeah, there's let's go on Buddhist theory. Buddhist theory for a moment. There's Buddhist theory says that there's different realms of existence. There's the God realms, there's the ghost realms, the animal realms, and the human realms, the hell realms, that type of thing. But they also refer to celestial being realms. Now, a lot of people here in the West tend to knee-jerk kind of a Christian Judeo view. Oh, celestial being realms, that must be the angels. Wait a minute, celestial beings, that's ET. And when I studied in the monastery, that was understood that celestial beings were people not of this world. In fact, to be ordained to be a Buddhist monk or nun, you have to be from this world. There's a rule. It literally says you have to be from this world. So the idea has been around for a while. And I've talked to people of the older religions, as you said, and they have literally said, our religion is strong enough to take this truth. Now, where you don't hear that strength is in the evangelical movement. They tend to look at the Bible in a very, very exacting form. If it's not, well, I remember when they found that rock on Mars back in the late 90s or something like this. Jerry Falwell came out. Oh, the Bible doesn't say there's life on other worlds, so it can't be. That type of thing. But I've talked to a lot of clergy, and they're very open. They're very open to the idea that the world is much bigger. And Carl Sagan kind of introduces the idea there's billions and billions out there. We now know there's billions and billions of star systems out there, and probably with planets that are capable of supporting the life as we know it. So we're getting this education, but there are still people who just want if they want confirmation, they want the dead burnt alien in the parking lot and the cracked up starship. I mean, that's all they'll accept, And I don't know if they would, the current president we had, if Trump had come out with disclosure, I don't know if anybody would believe him. The guy lied his butt off, So, we've got to get somebody credible in there who we trust. We need a Walter Cronkite type person that we trust to say this stuff is real. Get used to it,
Well, I mean, there's a lot of debate about that. I don't want to go down the political road whatsoever, because that always ends up being a lot uglier than what it's intended to be. But I mean, we have seen this discussion happen a lot recently, and especially with the new budget that was just put out. I mean,
Yep.
Hidden in there was the start of the 180-day countdown for UFO disclosures. I mean, what is your opinion on that?
Oh, I was very delighted to see that. Okay, and the person who brought that up to me was Steve Bassett, one of our lobbyists in D.C. He pointed out how valid that is, and how many congressmen and senators were positioning themselves to be able to vote. Yeah, I'm part of that, that kind of thing politically. They know that there is a good political thing if it's just one guy out here being the fringe guy. But if everybody's on board, has gotten this briefing, and understands that there's something going on. What I don't like about all the politics is the fact that they keep using some of the fear factor. And one of the disagreements I had with Lou Elizondo was the fact he was, granted, he's a career military guy. He has to weigh everything in the idea of potential threat. When I was an analyst in the Navy, one of the things we were taught in information gathering was gather information on everybody. Your friends today may be your enemies tomorrow. Your enemies today may be your friends tomorrow, but gather information on everybody, So I don't know. The political side, it's awkward. I think it will change. The media could be doing a better job. Hollywood could be doing a better job, but they've done a pretty good job to date. They've gotten most of the invasion stuff that we saw in the 40s and 50s and early 60s. They've gotten that out of their system, and most space stories or alien stories are a bit more positive now than they used to be. I mean, we've had E.T., we had Starman, we've had those kinds of first contact type movies, and they were very popular. So I think we're getting there. It's just there are going to be people who are just not going to be able to wrap their head around this thing.
All right. So the idea behind the religious side, the idea behind the political side that this is going on, and the idea that they've pretty much been talking about this being a threat phenomena for a number of years, even though, we don't really know whether or not, even though there is some subjects on it that do believe that any type of military craft or personnel has ever been attacked by this phenomena. There's been stories about planes being, shot out of the sky. The Mantell case from, I believe, 1957 would be one of those. But, we don't know if it was shot down. We don't know if it collided. We don't know if the plane just couldn't handle the stress of an old P-51 Mustang back then that the pilot was flying. We don't know. There's the mythical story, and we don't know if this is true, about the B-52 bomber in Vietnam being taken down by a UFO. There's a lot of these stories that have never come out and shown any proof as to why this would be considered a threat.
Well, that's the thing with the threat model. I've had a number of people ask me, oh my God, they're going to invade us. I said they could have done that. They could have stomped us out like a bug a long time ago. And they said, well, what proof do you have? I said, well, let's look at Nuremberg, Germany, 1561. The people came out of their homes and saw a Star Wars kind of battle going on over the city. And it happened again 5 years later. Somebody's protecting us. And when people say this idea of the Galactic Federation is all baloney, I don't get woo-woo about it, but I tend to believe that somebody up there is shepherding us and protecting us as a backworld, excuse the expression, a sociological backwater, because they could have wiped us out a long time ago when you think about it. Heck, they've been part of the reason Condon didn't have a positive thing about in the Condon report back in '68. The Air Force did not own up to him that these UFOs were shutting down missile silos all over Montana. Now, had they told him that truth, we would be having a very different conversation today.
What is the truth, though? Do they even know the truth?
At that time, what the truth they did know, again, there's a thing particularly in the military-industrial complex with information called compartmenting, okay? And you can have a high security clearance, but if you're not cleared for a specific subject matter, in fact, you hear that term in some of the Tom Clancy writing, where the protagonist there, and his name just went out of my head. Oh, Ryan, Mr. Ryan. Would tell the admiral, I'd like to pick open a particular compartment, meaning I need access to specific information, and that kind of thing was talked about in X-Files. And I worked with people we worked with clearances. There were people who knew things about certain things because their clearance, their job, the nature of their job said they knew about certain compartmented information. And I didn't have a need to know, so I didn't. That's how it works. I think the biggest thing people need to keep in mind is if there was a threat. In fact, somebody, you remember back when they were first talking about Space Force?
Yes. On
the news and things. On the late night comedians, were showing graphics of Marines in spacesuits with laser rifles. And somebody asked me about that, and I said if it came down to us having some kind of a confrontation with the aliens, it would be over within 90 seconds. And they look at me funny, and they said, "What do you mean? It can't be like that." And I said, "You're thinking in conventional warfare as technology. If they had the technology to come here from billions of light years or whatever the deal is, I dare say they can neutralize anything we've got." I mean, heck, even a terrorist right now with a Korean rocket and a nuke can put a rocket up in the right area of space, and they could put us in the 1890s in about 10 minutes, because that nuke detonated in space would fry a whole bunch of our satellites. And almost all of our communication happens through satellites anymore. and a lot of other things happen through satellites. So people don't think in terms of how easy. I mean, one guy the other day in Nashville had a camper full of explosives. That affected social media in a big way because he let that thing off next to an AT&T complex. And so people talk about threat. Well, threats measured on how good your technology is. We've got EMP capability weaponized. It's the size of a suitcase. They look like a couple of cans of Mobile One, the devices, for EMP type things. So I mean, if we've got that, they've got stuff infinitely better than what we've got. And like I tell people, they could put us in the Stone Ages in 90 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, the simple answer to that is, I mean, if they are in that much denial that any type of weaponry here is not primitive to a society that has a technologically advanced spaceship that could fly through light years in potentially minutes, days, months, if that, to get here, I'm pretty sure that they're going to be able to have some very, very good defensive systems.
Agreed. And think about it this way. I look. There's all kinds of thinking military-wise. Okay, there's all kinds of technology for waging war, and everybody tends to knee-jerk to like a nuke or something like this. But all it took was a little virus, whether it was naturally happened or it was released from in a context of a germ warfare situation. Look what COVID's done to the planet. Okay, it has brought us to our knees. Did it kill everybody? No. But it killed a lot of people, yes. But think about COVID. The rule with germ warfare was not to kill the other side, but to disable them and overwhelm their systems. Okay, their human systems. And this is exactly what has happened. If you look at it, if you were to look at, and I'm not saying conspiracy theories, but if you were to look at COVID as a intentional release of a biological agent, it has worked in spades. It has been the equivalent of World War III in medical terms.
Very true. Very true. Well, let's switch to the West Coast, Hollywood. For a number of years, many, including myself on this show, have stated point blank that Hollywood really portrays, over the last 20 years, a real negativity of aliens and UFOs, to the point that they're coming to get us. I think Independence Day would be the most popular of those movie series that really depict extraterrestrial contact as something that we do not want and do not want around us. Your thoughts on that?
Okay, well, I was working with a production house back early before the lockdown, and they wanted material like this, and I submitted a script for a pilot script for a television series about experiencers. Okay, and dealing with the experiencers on the idea that that it's a real social problem. How does it affect mom, pa America when we find out that one of the members in the household has been touched since they were 15 or something like that? Okay, and maybe even their whole family has been touched for 4 generations. Okay, and this happens a lot. Not everybody's touched. The people who've been touched frequently have been touched. Their family has been members of their family has been touched for multiple generations. It's like they're tracking certain genetic lines over a period of many generations. And so I wrote a script related to this kind of thing, and I was told it wasn't dark enough. They wanted dark, okay, and it didn't have enough action. And I said it's intended to be a piece, sort of like I said it was intended to be a series, less like the X-Files and more like 6 Feet Under. Okay, of a certain core group of people dealing with other people. Remember I said that whole soft sciences standpoint? Dr. Welby's a psychologist in this context, okay? Dr. Welby, MD, is a psychologist and hypnotizes these people and records things, and different people come to them for help because they've been touched by this stuff. And they blew it off. Oh, it doesn't have enough action in it for the modern audience. And to a certain degree, they have framed this problem. There's only one way to tell an ET story, and it's got to be with a battle. And that's the shame of it, because there's a bigger story here, and it's a human story, and it's a human tragedy. Like I said, with the psychologists and social workers, I can't get them to talk to me because they think it's crazy, or they don't want to wrap their heads around it, one or the other.
Not enough killing, not enough blood.
No, that's exactly it. But, it goes back to the old thing. Well, it's the old thing. If I come in to your office tomorrow and they've got me all strapped up and my arm and my shoulder in a cast, you're going to say, oh, my God, here, take a seat, make yourself comfortable. That looks painful. But they don't look at, if I say I've got an emotional issue because of something that happened to me when I was a kid and I was touched by these off-worlders, oh, you're crazy. And that's the shame of this whole thing. And I've talked to over 100 experiencers over the last 7 or 8 years at conferences and things like this. And I've heard how much stress it puts on marriages, puts on their job, professional thing, their professional bearing and things like this. It's a weight that they carry. It has pushed some people to drink,
Do you think Hollywood plays a role politically in the perception of UFOs and aliens?
Yeah, they do, in a big way. In fact, they could do a better job of portraying this topic matter without it being a battle. One of the TV shows, that I thought was very good back in the day, one was Mork and Mindy, for one. Okay. There was personal interaction. It was fun. And the other one was Alf.
Loved it.
I loved Alf. And I believed that was the ability, that was the Hollywood's way at that time, or television's way at that time, of making it palatable, making it fun to some degree, and getting us used to the idea that, yes, we could interact with ET. Look, people say, I on one interview some time back, somebody said, when are they going to visit us? And I said, they've been walking among us for years. There's a lot of them that are very humanoid that you wouldn't think any different. Bump into them on the subway. And in D.C., far more of them there than you might believe. When they came out with the first Men in Black movie, I liked how they approached it. They're just regular folks looking for asylum, and they just want to be able to live out their lives and have a job, and and that was a very good way of looking at it. There are some here that are here to study us, anthropology types, whatever. And I think what is scary about the thing is that we've been kept in the dark, and I think a lot of people would literally short out if they knew just how pervasive the visitation of ET in our culture is.
Lou Elizondo, in your opinion, 40 seconds or less, is he the first Man in Black to come out in public?
I believe so. Particularly for the fact that when I seen him at conventions, he's wearing a bulletproof vest. He's scared of something. He really is. And he even made a comment on television once. The only thing that was going to stop him from doing this was a bullet in the head. So yeah, I think he is a Man in Black who came out, but I think there are others. One of the big points that was made both by him and Harry Reid was a lot of people who were stopping things from getting up to the higher levels of the government, like the Secretary of Defense, things like this, were people who were theologically driven in the Pentagon.
All right, well, let's get more into that when we come back from the break. The intrepid investigative journalist Cheryl Costa is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We continue on with the UFO Truth right here on the mighty SOR next. All right, we're clear.
I hope it was okay going where we went.
Oh, yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Fantastic.
What's goofy is that producer came back after he did some research, telling me how bad my script was, a few things like that. And he came back later, and he had another producer interview me for an hour. And she gave me good content criticism, which I was very open to on how to write the script. Scripts have changed a lot, and pitching has changed a lot in the last 30 years, especially in the last 20. Everything they taught me in school about pitching is useless. It's a whole new game, especially because of streaming television, formats for shows, how you format a show. It's not the same as it was when I studied film writing and playwriting. But one of the things that did come out was the senior producer, Mr. Big, called me up about a week later. He says, the producer who interviewed you the other night sent me some links. You're a freaking expert. See, up until then, I'd never used my UFO credentials for fear it would taint me. Okay, but they Googled me and they saw New York Times articles and a bunch of other things, and they came back and said, "Well, you're the story, not the thing you wrote." I said, Linda and I don't want to be Mulder and Scully. We don't want to be. Don't make the story about us. Or people who are similar to us, and that's the sticky point. And I kind of broke it off with the producers on that. On the other hand, with the data stuff, I've had a producer out there who's been trying to pitch a television series for almost a year now, and they got it down to the point where it was just a manager, literally down to the point where they were supposed to sign, and COVID hit, and everybody stopped. Everything stopped. And it's so funny because I had one producer online, a different producer, and he said, well, we'd like to do a UFO show. I said, okay, can I give you a premise? He says, what's that? He says, everybody goes for the low-hanging fruit. Oh, they do a UFO show. They go to Roswell. They go to Kecksburg. They go to Stevensville, Texas, right? That's the low-hanging fruit, all the famous places. I've identified 150 places you've never heard of that in the last 18 years, nothing ever happens there, but one day they had 70 sightings in their little dinky town, or something like that. I've identified 150 of them across the United States. And when I get 2019, 2020, the database, I'll probably pick up another 25 or 30. They weren't interested. My argument was, why don't we go and investigate those things and do a UFO roadshow kind of thing? Go investigate those things, interview people who remember that particular day. They weren't interested.
Why would they be? They don't want facts.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They don't want facts, and it's a shame.
But even the ghost shows are like that. They don't want facts. It's all about the entertainment, because the entertainment brings advertising revenue.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's amazing to me that even though we, you look at the success of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, how we have not been able to match that type of reality to the phenomena in any other movie since. At least that's my opinion. I think is egregious to the subject.
I would agree. We at one point had two networks talking to us, and the producer came to me. I've been working with this guy for quite a while, and he says, I've got two different offers right now. And I said, what was this? And remember, this was just before the cusp of the COVID. This is like last January, last February. And he says, a science type channel wants to do this, and this other channel wants to do that. Two totally different approaches to the subject matter, but using data from Linda's and mine book as the data launch point for the program. And then, like I said, COVID came around and everything went on hold. So we don't know where it's going at this point.
All right, we got 20 seconds. Big thank you to Bigfoot Michigan Rob, Kay Cayley, and Cat Chaser for the super chats tonight. Thank you to everyone who's given us a thumbs up and thumbs down. If you're new to the show, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. We got a couple of days to hit our goal, which is 10,000 subscribers before the end of the year. We're almost there. We need your help. Here we go. We pass the halfway point at Spaced Out Radio tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Dave Scott. My hair and beard are looking fantastic, even though you can't see them in radio land. But I promise you, they are. They really are. Hey, I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Cheryl Costa, intrepid investigative journalist on the UFO subject. One of the best. She's an award winner, 2018 Researcher of the Year in ufology. Cheryl, welcome back.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We were kind of looking into the Hollywood aspect of everything and the role they play in ufology. And in a lot of the movies, the majority over the last 20, 25 years, have all been about negative entities. I mean, they didn't even get Travis Walton's story right in Fire in the Sky.
No, they didn't.
You know, and that is a tough push for many people who have really been pushing the idealisms of this with trying to call it down the middle, whether it's good, bad. Yes, we always hear the nightmarish stories. That's what makes money. But like I said right before the break, there really hasn't been a movie since, in my opinion, Close Encounters of the Third Kind that has really detailed the entire phenomena from an experiencer standpoint to a governmental standpoint all in one, and not a single use of CGI.
No, I would agree. Like I said, I tried pitching that. In fact, I pitched 2 variants of the script, and they keep wanting it darker. They keep wanting it to have something that the story did not need to have, so to speak. Okay. Literally in this script that I offered, the teaser literally starts out in a wake at a funeral home, and the guy in the box looks pretty weathered. And there's this guy standing there looking at him, saying a couple of prayers, and he mumbles to himself, "What did they do to us, Frank?" You know? And then we find out later these kids, back 30, 40 years ago, upstate New York, they were teenage members of a volunteer fire department, and they got fried by a UFO one afternoon. And when they were taken to the hospital, and they were unconscious for like a day, their blood pressures were through the roof. And, oh, by the way, they were all sunburned on one side of their body, you know, what they'd been exposed to up in that fire tower, you know. And that's based on a real case. I based it on a real case that I investigated. And I changed the places and the dates and everything. But the bottom line was, I told the guy, I said, this is inspired by a true story. And I've got a lot of them. And I had people like Kathleen Marden look at the script. She gave me some the initial script, and she gave me some pointers on how I didn't get the regression process with the therapist right. I sent it to Susie Hansen down in New Zealand. She gave me a small list of talking points, and I tweaked the script up. So it was a very accurate script as to regression and the experience, that type of thing. And Okay, the producer that I work with out in Hollywood right now, he gave me a term. He says it's like pitching to goldfish. They don't know the topic matter. They just know they want something, but they don't know what. And you pitch it to them. They don't know the topic matter. They're not very smart, so they don't know the topic matter, and they don't see the hook. And that's the shame of it. The people that are driving all this stuff don't have a clue about this stuff. And Steven Spielberg, he had an interest in this stuff. That's why E.T. got as far as it did. That's why Taken TV series went as far as it did, because the producer had the connections, the money support, and was interested in the topic matter.
Okay, well, let's switch from Hollywood to the mainstream media.
Oh,
There has...
okay.
I know you're sensitive about this, as am I. But, one of my concerns with the way the media has covered this, and I'm very proud to say that they have, finally, without the X-Files music, without the Twilight Zone music. It was nice, over the last couple of years to see these topics get there. But my concern is it's the same people with the same message on the same shows each and every time. There is no Cheryl Costa being interviewed. There is no Richard Dolan or Grant Cameron being interviewed. There is no other ufologists out there who've been doing this. Like, where the heck is Peter Davenport? That man's an encyclopedia on this subject. Hasn't been interviewed. The media has done good in bringing this topic to the mainstream, but when it's the same people each and every time on each and every network, on each and every newspaper, the message doesn't get through if you're not providing different perspective or counterpoint.
Oh, I agree. There is a particular, and do you mind if I go ahead and trash somebody?
Oh, please.
The organization?
Please.
After the New York Times came out with their December 16th article, there was a huge amount of people after Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal. And I got contacted by producers at WBUR in Boston, does the On Point program for NPR. And I was asked to be on the show as well. And they mostly talked to Leslie Kean and to Ralph. And when they talked to me, he wanted some. This interviewer wanted to know stuff that I couldn't give them. I said, I can give you statistics. I can give you numbers. Here's how big the numbers are. And he wanted to know where they're from, who's driving them. I said, no, I can't tell you that. What we've done scientifically with our study is we studied the phenomena. It's the first step of scientific research, is to gather data and study that data and what does it tell you. And everybody comes to me, academia and media. They want the golden answer. They want confirmation. Are there really ETs? And all this, but they aren't willing to listen to the research at the story we can tell them, and that's very, very, very disheartening. When the New York Times article ran on our book, I thought, well, great, I get some great press here. Maybe we could. And the next morning, I'm getting calls from news directors. My paper was getting calls from news directors and editors all over the planet. But approach other editors here in the smaller markets. Okay, I even made a pitch out to a whole bunch of TV stations. I took the database for television markets, okay, and I made a copy of it and merged it into my UFO database. I was able to, at one point, to reach out to a particular network and say, I know where you've got 150 stations as part of your network. You own 150 stations, and I can give you the UFO stats for every single one of your markets. Not just cities, but for your specific market, which for the listeners might mean a certain number of counties together for a television station. And I had the ability to literally go to market number 102 and say, okay, here's your sightings. I went to another market for number 99, and I gave them their UFOs for their market. Only one television station took me up on it. Now, I had another news director, who you probably know well, reach out to me and say, we have 140 stations in the country. Would you be willing to, if I talk them into doing stories about their areas, would you be willing to provide material for their specific markets? I said, absolutely. And he's banging his head against the wall trying to get them interested in the story. And this guy's a nationally known news director. So I don't know what that resistance is. I don't know if it's fear. I don't know if it's fear of their jobs. Oh my God, we'll lose our credibility as a news organization. I've heard that from other people. But the newspaper I worked for said, let's talk about something a little bit more interesting than the regular stuff we've been publishing for 50 years. So, it takes a different mindset.
Yeah, I can see that. But you were one of the fortunate ones where people actually reached out. You may not have got the airtime, but there's a lot of people out there, Cheryl. A lot of creative, smart people. I think of, Bob McGuire as one.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Or a number of scientists like Kevin Knuth. Perfect guy to talk about this. Where are they? Why weren't they contacted? They have the credentials.
Yes. Kevin's only up here at SUNY Albany, And I was having a conversation with him here literally last week, and I asked him, I said, any possibility I could come up and pitch the physics department you work in? I'm kind of pushing the envelope myself here, And I said, why is everybody scared to look through the telescope using the Galileo term? And he kind of chuckled, and he says, it's a tough sell. See, but here's the thing. They want confirmation. They want something that I can't give them, but I can tell a story and give them a picture or something, but they don't want to touch the subject matter, because if I came to their campus and gave them a presentation, the whole idea is that our subject matter is ludicrous to them. 175 years ago, nobody believed in germ theory. If you went to a polytechnical college back in the late 30s, early 40s, before World War II, and told your professor that you wanted to study rocketry, they would say, get out of my program. We don't talk about science fiction. Okay. And there's been this slow pickup on this, on technology. Heavier than air aircraft was impossible to the academics and engineers and polytechnical things until the Wright brother, a couple bicycle guys come along and do it. Okay. Same thing with Tesla. Everybody said there's no such, you'll never get AC to work. Okay. So there's this resistance in academia that they said once they decided that something's impossible, it is, until such time that they cannot refute the evidence.
With so many scientists that are involved in this, whether it's in the propulsion systems, whether it's anti-gravity, whether it's just that they want to play in the UFO field, there's a lot of credible people out there from major universities, not just some community college that, somebody's trying to eventually get on with a Stanford or a Harvard or something, because those scientists are already looking into this, and why do you think academia continues to push this away? Is it because of the military-industrial complex, or is it because they don't want to potentially lose tenure over it?
That's exactly it. I've talked to several people. It's exactly it. The only reason I got to go and talk to 5 journalism classes at the same school where Knuth is, by the way, was because the journalist professor was an editor, and he was incredibly interested in the topic, well versed in the topic. Okay, we had incredible conversations between the classes that we went to talk to, but he was of the same belief that I was, that disclosure is coming, and these students are going to be the frontline journalists that are going to have to tell that story, and he wanted to indoctrinate them a little bit about the topic matter, but I've turned around and made that same offer to other schools teaching journalism, upstate New York and in northern Pennsylvania, and crickets, silence. They won't talk to you. I went through the public relations department at one major university up here, and I said, look, I'm interested in these 3 or 4 topic matters, and I had sociology, anthropology, I had physics, and I said, I can come and give a very sane presentation. I'm a national speaker. Here's my book. Here's a major paper of record has written about me. We can come give you a very... And they would not take my phone calls the next day. Okay? They're terrified of the topic matter, that if we even come there and talk, oh, University of such and such is talking about UFOs. Oh my God, how crazy! Don't send your kid there. That's what they're worried about. And that's the darn shame. I thought they were supposed to be. I think we've seen it all through history. The guy who figured out how to calculate longitude for navigation, okay, the institutional people fought him for years. Those technique worked, and it's the technique we use today for how we navigate and figure out where we are longitude-wise in the world. Okay, it's just you get this established crowd in academia who just are resistant to anything new until it's literally pushed down their throat, and it's a shame of it. Until that one, I'll give an example with germ theory. Until that one doctor out there was in Czechoslovakia said, "Wash your hands," you know. It's a hard sell, and it's a damn shame considering all of the positive press we've had the last couple of years that you can't get them to even sit down and look at the material. And you know, and this is what I worry about with the with like if we have government hearings is, are we going to be hearing from a whole bunch of swaggering pilots and government scientists, or are some of our best minds in the UFO community going to have the opportunity to share what they know about this topic matter?
Well, the media, the media, though, Cheryl, has not given any of the brightest minds in this community airtime.
I reached out to On Point's producers. My email is blocked. I can't even get an email to them. Okay, I sent them 2 proposals. They blocked me. I have reached out to 60 Minutes after what's his name? The guy from that company out there,
Robert Bigelow.
Bigelow. I reached out to them and says, I've got the numbers here. I can give you a perspective and a story that will astound you. Silence, crickets. Okay, so what is it? Why are we still painted? If there's this positive press going on out here on one end, how come somebody else from the community can't get in front of these people and say, here's some truth for you? I can't tell you where they're from. I can't tell you how they get here or what their propulsion systems are, but I can tell you interesting things about them, where they've been hanging out, where they're not hanging out. You know, did you know that the UFO shapes seem to have, some of them, they have their own individual seasons when we see more of them than when we don't? You know, I only figured that one, only discovered that in the last 2 months. You know, there's a lot of stuff that people don't realize is going on. It's good research, but people say, "Oh, Costa, you're just got a book of numbers and charts and graphs." Oh, boring, you know. And that's the shame of it.
I want to ask you about that 60 Minutes interview because I don't even think my audience knows this. I actually reached out to former 60 Minutes reporter Lara Logan about that, and I have messaged her on a couple of different occasions saying that I would love to have a journalist-on-journalist conversation about it. I'd like to interview her about it. Maybe like somebody like that isn't going to come on this show. I highly doubt. But, hey, if we could get an article for spacedoutradio.com or uapresearch.com, where we also send our articles to, and you're a writer for as well, I would love that interview. And the main reason was because you could see the hesitation in her voice going down that line of questioning. Yet, not that she was afraid to ask the questions, but to me it seemed like she couldn't believe this was coming out of this billionaire's mouth.
Oh, agreed. I saw that when I watched that interview like 4 times. I was watching all the nuances and listening very carefully what he said. And it really, really surprised me that they didn't want to follow up on that topic matter.
Bingo. You have a very influential man, or pardon me, you for 50 plus years, you have been one of the key newsworthy television shows out there. You have
Yes.
a billionaire who has spent millions on this topic, plus has government black project contracts with the United States government. He's opened the door, and you don't follow it up. How bad is that for journalism?
Horrible. Horrible. I think one of the biggest concerns I have in journalism is the fact that, everybody said, people have told me from the early years, back when I was in high school, and I was like a cub photographer kind of thing, because I was I did some of the school newspaper photography, and we got our plates made back in the day when they did plates over at the local newspaper, and I got picked up for a part-time job to go and take pictures of the new officers over at the Masonic Lodge or something. And one of the first things that my editor, Dick Peer, told me, he says, look, pictures sell newspapers. And I said, okay. He says, pictures of scandals sell more newspapers, But the bottom line was, he said, the key thing here is we're here to sell newspapers. And one of my pitches when I got my column was, do you want to sell page views? I don't even know. I know you can't afford the column space for me in your printed paper, but would you like to sell page views? And that was the argument I made. And everybody laughed me out of their office except Larry Dietrich. Larry Dietrich was the editor-in-chief at that time and at the New Times, and he said, yeah, sure, let's do this. And he said, we'll try you for a month. I came back in a month later, and he said, you're pulling more page views than all the columnists combined. They called me 6 months later, and they said, you're pulling a national audience from a dinky little weekly paper. This is incredible. And within a year, they said, you've got a strong international audience on a dinky little weekly paper. Okay? And that was the goofy thing about the whole thing. And I've used that same pitch with other editors, and it falls on. In fact, I've stopped pitching editors. I've actually reached out to the marketing departments in a couple of newspapers and said, would you like this kind of visibility? Crickets.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. How do you think I feel being on one station in Canada, Saga 960, and I'm Canadian? I got more American affiliates than I do Canadian.
Yeah, I have marveled at that. Why aren't you all the way across Canada? I've always marveled at that.
Oh, trust me, we marveled at it too. We have. And we still marvel at it. We got about just over a minute and a half here before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. Cheryl Costa is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Cheryl, the way this entire phenomena is going right now, when we come back, I want to get into what you see happening for 2021. But statistically speaking, in about a minute here, how has the year 2020 been for sightings and information and contact?
Okay, a couple of things. Early 2020, I took the year off in 2019 because I was presenting someplace almost every other week at that time. I was literally coming home, doing my laundry, and packing the same clothes back in the bag for the next trip. And I got a call from George Knapp out in Las Vegas. He's a news director out there, and he says to me, my phones are ringing off the hook. Have you noticed that there's been an increase in sightings? And I hadn't really looked at it, so I went out and pulled the first 3 months worth of data. It was just before we got locked down of National UFO Reporting Center data, and then I compared it on a spreadsheet I already had, and we hadn't seen numbers like this since 2014. Oh my God, this is a 7-year high, which I kind of predicted was going to come because we have a 7-year cycle. And the numbers have been huge. They really have been huge this year. They are seeing them all over, and I'll be very happy to get the final information both from MUFON and from NUFORC here in the next couple of weeks after New Year's to see where it's going. But what I've measured so far with just NUFORC data, my model says that we're probably going to add another 20,000 sightings to the database.
That's massive. Absolutely massive. We have Cheryl Costa for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio. What can we look forward to in 2021? Then, at the bottom of the hour, we're going to join John tonight from The Shift. We're going to go across Canada. Then we got the Newswire, the thought of the day, the jam-packed hour 3, next on Spaced Out Radio. All right, I'm just going to run my dogs out again. I'll be right back, okay?
Enjoy.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do?
Why not get bumblefucked?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and we have some cool swag for you to pick up. All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today. Take it from the top.
Go!
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Hey, Space Travelers, this is John Russell with the Travel Guide here. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little different. We're not some faceless organization. Our goal is always to find like we do. Then you give those items directly to the underdog who goes. To become a donor to Space Out Radio, it's a charity. Buy a charity.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thorne, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get from Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make you think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out.
Okay.
Let me pull my headphones off the ground again. Fapster, Doug, my dog, is thinking, Jesus Christ, Dave, I don't need to go every half an hour. Let me sleep. You kidding me? It's every hour. It's every hour.
Something I'd like to go with as we go into this last half hour, talk about where things are going. I'd like to indicate what I plan to do.
Yes. Please do.
Linda and I, what we're going to do to try and make a splash, okay, and wake people up, and it's going to sound like it's impossible, but we've developed the automation to do what we're going to do. So I'll be happy. I'm going to share that with you and your audience. I think you'll blow people's socks off.
Yeah, perfect.
I think this has been a good show tonight.
Me too. Yeah, it's been
good.
Fantastic. Kevin says, neck and crack hair are such a pain. Is that an insult to my hair, Kev? Because I worked hard on this today. My hair looks fantastic. And the neck cracking, if you knew how, if you knew how much pain I'm in right now, I'm just teasing, Kev. I'm just teasing. But, oh my goodness. I wish I wouldn't have skipped my my chiropractor today. That's for sure. Holy.
Well, I had a scare earlier today. I didn't realize I've developed an allergy to almonds.
Oh no.
And we noticed it sometime back with just using almond milk or like on cereal, that type of thing. It was causing like a kind of a lump or whatever you want to call it, a kind of a constriction.
Hold on, my friend. We got 5 seconds. I apologize.
Okay, go ahead.
I lied. We got 25 seconds. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I had to go out and buy some Benadryl today because somebody gave me a whole bunch of Christmas cookies and they were loaded with almonds.
Oh no! That sucks.
Yeah.
That sucks.
I had to call my doctor and they were getting ready to ship me over to urgent care.
Oh my goodness. Okay, now hold on.
Would you like to connect with us? For all of your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hataharia. Hataharia is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including Rockin' Out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce Cheryl Costa. She is an intrepid investigative journalist when it comes to everything UFO. She's an author, statistician, and a really, really good friend of this show, and we are so glad to have you here, Cheryl. Thank you for doing this interview tonight.
Thank you. Of course, I'm sitting here in my pajamas doing this.
I wish I was in. Usually I am. Usually I am actually broadcasting this show from my pajamas, but not tonight. No, not tonight. I do want to ask you, 2021 is coming up pretty quick, and right now in the field of ufology, there could be some very exciting news coming. I don't expect disclosure, but some very, very big news coming in regards to this phenomena, especially with the UAP task force, their findings. We could hear things this year coming up that we've never heard before, and I'm hoping for that. What do you see happening?
I agree. We're going to hear, there's going to be a lot more information. It may not be what everybody wants. Everybody in the UFO community wants to drink from the fire hose. Okay. But I think it's going to be a measured thing. I'm looking forward to hearing that task force disclosure. I think it's going to wake some people up, and it will be a good barometer to figure out how many people are going to go off the deep end when they start getting some of the truth, I think that's going to be a good thing, and it's what my contacts in D.C. are telling me. They think it's going to be a good thing as well. So what I'm can I tell you what I'm doing? Linda and I are doing to kind of help this along a little bit.
Yeah, please.
Okay, we did the UFO Sightings Desk Reference, United States of America, 2001 to 2015, back in 2016, released in 2017 timeframe. All right, we're getting ready to release, probably by the second quarter, the same book essentially, except 2001 through 2020. It'll be a 20-year sample in the 21st century of the UFO phenomena. Okay, we've learned a lot. Back when we did it in 2016, when we were building it, we didn't know what we were doing. We have since found ways to refine the data. We've also, one of the things we did recently was during the break of this COVID thing, I sat down and took the raw data information and have been supplementing it with latitude, longitude information, zip code information, and correcting the spelling of the cities, which affected the automation last time when we generated the last book, that some cities ended up in the wrong state, ended up in the wrong county because the spelling of the cities. It's a major problem. It's like about 4% of the database, and when you're talking over 150,000 sightings, it's a significant problem. So we're correcting it. Right now I have almost 500 hours in correcting the original database from a city's, county's standpoint, plus supplementing with lat, longitude, and zip code. So we're going to be able to, one of the things I hope to be able to do is, I wrote an article last year and I said that the 37th parallel is not the UFO superhighway, because I had 2018 data to do that with. I hope to really put that whole issue to bed with the with the new and improved database. Plus, we'll be adding 2019, 2020. Now, here's the deal. That book, we're calling it Project Pink Book, okay? It's going to have a bright phosphorescent pink cover. You can flag an aircraft with this thing, okay? I saw a prototype the other day. Why were we doing it? Well, one, it's women researchers, and women researchers in UFOlogy tend to get crapped on a lot. Okay, so this is going to be very clearly a women-generated book, point one. Now, the other thing we're going to do is, since all the data, once the database is cleaned up, some things we wanted to do previously we couldn't because of this bad spelling issue and all that, we're going to publish. People have been asking me, well, I'd like to know about my hometown. Okay, well, in our reference book, we never could only do state and down to the county level. So we're going to generate 50 books that take all the same stuff you had about your state that's in the desk reference, and we're going to, instead of just giving you the sighting information for the last 20 years for down to your county, we're going to give it to you down to the municipal level, literally right down to if your hometown had a sighting in the last 20 years and it was reported to MUFON or NUFORC, it's going to be in there, okay? So each book, we figured out if we tried to do it as a one book, it would be the size of 2 Oxford dictionaries, probably about a foot high. It would be that thick. So we decided to do the individual states, and those will probably be around 100, as little as 150 pages to about 250 pages. So what we're hoping to be able to do is have a press splash when we release this stuff. We've got an automation process that once we actually generate all the charts for the main book, doing the rest, doing those other 50 books, it's just a matter of pulling the templates out and formatting. That's all it is. It's very straightforward process we've developed. I want to literally have a picture in something like the New York Times or some other major news service, AP or something like that, standing in front, Linda and I standing in front of a table with 60 books sitting there in front of you, 60 books in front of us. Now, that's going to be the desk reference, 51 books for this, all the states and the district, plus a 5-book series and analyzing strictly shapes. Okay, and there was a couple of other little analysis things we're thinking putting together. So we're hoping to put out somewhere in the order of 55 to 60 books. It will be the largest compilation of published UFO data ever published in history.
That would be phenomenal. Phenomenal.
And you know, a person who just doesn't want to get a big book about something, they just want to know about their home state, kind of like a little UFO Guinness Book of Records. You'll be able to go out there on Amazon and be able to buy a book that's just about the sightings in your state, right down to the municipal level. And that has been a target of ours for a while, to be able to literally drill down to the city level. So we're excited about it. We're hard at work on it. Like I said, I've got almost 500 hours in just correcting the old database from a spelling and supplementing with lat law information, things like this. And it's been very exciting. Hey, what else we got to do? We're in house arrest for the COVID stuff. So, you know, I gained 10 pounds through the COVID lockdown, and I'm in a process of starting to fast and trying to bring that 10 pounds off. And I'm sick of watching streaming TV. So we're very aggressively working on this thing. Linda's excited about it. We were doing a test report the other day, and we discovered something rather interesting. We found out that UFO shapes seem to have their own seasons. Some of them are only seen had the majority, and they're seen all the time, but the majority of them are like in the fall or in the summer or the summer fall or the fall winter time frame. And who knew this before? For those people who say, well, your books is just a lot of numbers and charts. Well, who knew this before we compiled the information? You know, so this is going to be kind of fun for us. Our hope is we'll publish this thing, do another year or two worth of UFO conferences, and go off quietly into our retirement and sunset.
Can you really retire from this field, though?
We're going to try.
I don't think you can. I don't think you and the wife can.
Well, maybe after I'm still just freelancing, and she does still work at the university. So maybe after she steps away from the university, maybe I don't know. We've got some other plans. I can't say where, but we're planning to relocate after there's enough herd immunity through inoculation and everything. We're hoping by the end of 2021, we're hoping to relocate to a different state.
I could see that.
Yeah, well, she wants to go back to her hometown, and I've concurred with the idea of moving there. And we're in the process of we've already cleaned out one storage unit, and we're getting ready to clean out two more. And we're gonna make ourselves light so we can make this go back to we're both elders, so we're going to thin ourselves down to the point where we can go to a senior living situation, and just enjoy our later years here. So
I don't blame you. And you know, hey, if we got the ability to do that, but I don't think you're going to step away. I think there's a lot of game left that you have to do, and you have to pull in order to get what you need done. Especially if more confirmation happens.
Yeah, that's true. I have a major university is taking my papers. That's a big deal. And one, because I was a social activist in the transgender movement back in the golden era of the 80s and the bad old days, as they say. And I was one of the original board of directors of the International Foundation for Gender Education, and I did a lot of activism. So that was the initial reason they're picking me up. But now this school is looking at me and saying, "Wow, you're doing all this groundbreaking UFO research. We definitely want your papers." So we've been organizing everything for them. So and they have put me under contract to write a memoir. So my time is taxed, as they say.
I'm getting a lot of questions and comments about
anything
about the seasons and the ships that are seen in seasons. Could you elaborate a little bit about that a little bit more?
Okay, I had a guy ask me this. Actually, there's a UFO out there that's square. Okay, I don't know if it's square like a door, or I don't know if it's square like a board cube. But we determined that particular craft has, I'm looking down my little sheet here, it's a fall-winter cycle. It basically, it peaks up a little bit in the fall and goes right in through January. Is about a 4-month window where the numbers spike up. There's some other ones like the oval shape or summer fall. A lot of these are summer fall. There's one that's strictly, the chevrons are strictly fall. Blimps boomerangs are strictly fall. There's one that's fall, winter. There's the triangles. Now I know people say, "Oh, Cheryl, that's a TR3B." Well, it's only the classic triangle seems to only dominate in the fall months. It's like a late August through about December type sighting window. We're still refining that. We're going to in our shapes analysis book, we're going to be able to print charts like that. The other kind of chart we're going to print out is, remember I talked about those 150 places you never heard of that had something really interesting happen? I have a chart I print out now. We call them event windows. We literally print out a chart. It goes across your screen literally. It's about 2 inches high, and it basically is January 1 through December 31st of a particular year. Now, what people don't know is in the United States, we have about somewhere on the order of about 15, between both databases, about 15 sightings a day in the United States. Okay, I can't talk to Canada, but I suspect it's similar. But if you go down to a state level, forget about California because they're equivalent to 3 or 4 states. But on an average state level, we'll say like Indiana, they only have 1 or 2 sightings a week reported. They only have about 1,300 for the year. Okay, but what we've done, when we plot that out by daily sightings, it's down there in the dirt, onesie twosies type of thing. And then what will happen is every now and then we'll spot a day where something literally almost goes off the chart. Okay, an example, Indiana, April 16th, 2008. There were 60 sightings in the United States that day, but when we drilled down, most places were onesie-twosies, except Indiana had 25. And when we drilled down even further on that 25 of that specific day, it was centered in 8 municipalities across 2 counties. Okay, and I've identified about, like I said, about 150 little flaps like this that nobody knows about. Okay, and we're going to do these event things in every state. If they've had it, we're going to do 20 years, so there'll be 20 years worth of event charts inside the data book for each individual states. In the national book, we're only going to do it, show a national 20 years worth of national flaps, as they say. There's going to be some really interesting ways of viewing them. The seasons, that we're still trying to figure out how to present the seasons. But we will. And there's other data we're still struggling with how to present it.
Why do you think there is such a pattern in the way these ships come around? You know, I mean, if TR3Bs or black triangles are coming around more in the summertime and these rods or these squares are coming in at different times, what do you think causes that? Do you think if it is aliens that they have the ability to say, okay, you guys got July through September. You guys have, December through January. And by the way, you little rod guys, you have between, let's say March and June. Is that kind of how it's working?
I don't know the answer to that, but let's take a scenario like that. Remember we were talking about the Galactic Federation, perhaps different. It's like when we were over in Iraq and Afghanistan, we have a coalition, okay? And perhaps the Galactic Federation has a coalition. Certain people are guarding us, looking after us during different windows of time. Perhaps it's like that. I don't know. But okay, first thing, what I do know. First thing, basically, we learned with the first book was sightings are driven by population, they're driven by temperate weather, and they're driven by leisure time. And we got that confirmed back during the early part of the lockdown because we had lots of leisure time, and the sightings went through the roof in April time frame. Okay. Another thing we discovered is in the past year, but that's not in the original book, is we wrote an algorithm where we're able to determine that 65-75% of the sightings happen between 5 o'clock at night and 11:30 at night, with the bulk of it happening between 8:30 and about 10:30 at night. Okay, and the other 16 hours a day from midnight to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon only represents about 25% of the sightings. So we can tell you what hours of the day. So we're hoping when we do the Shapes book, we'll be able to tell you their time and season, both from the context of what months they're mostly seen in, but maybe also the impact. Maybe they're only seen at certain hours. We don't know this, but we're hoping to generate a chart like that. So this is kind of exciting stuff. We're finding different ways to present the data and how to drill into it.
So looking at 2021, as we got about 4.5 minutes left
Yep.
with you tonight, I want to ask you in regards to the whole aspect of disclosure versus confirmation once again. Do you expect a lot of thumb twiddling on this subject? Do you expect there to be more coming out of the task force, or do you think it all gets covered up and we're still in the same bed that we're lying in right now?
I think the task force is going to share some stuff with us, but they're going to be. I think they're going to be very couched about how much they do share. Okay, for the UFO community, they're probably not going to do for the. Let's see what term we use for the mundane population of the country. It's going to be the low-hanging fruit for them. Okay, that this stuff has been going on. Yes, this stuff, and yes, we've been investigating it. UFO community is going to go. So we already know about that. I don't know if we're going to get that many shocks that the dyed-in-the-wool UFO community already knows about. Okay, but I think there's Ma and Pa America that is not tuned in. Ma and Pa newspaper editors and all those people who seem to not want to talk to us are going to get tuned into something bigger than they ever imagined. Okay, now are we going to get confirmation? Are they going to introduce us to a little gray alien from from wherever? I doubt it. But then again, we don't know if they're going to take this whole threat model. We don't know how they're going to couch this stuff. But I think something significant is going to happen. But the distraction right now is we have to get the country inoculated, and that's going to be the thrust. And if you notice that one story that they released back during the major lockdown, they did it while everybody was distracted by the COVID. So if we're going to see anything else immediately, we're going to see it while we're all distracted worrying about whether or not we're going to get a $2,000 check or a $600 check, that kind of thing. Right now, we're all distracted with that. And if they do come out and share some stuff in 180 days, wonderful. I hope we do. But like I said, there's a handful of us that are going to try and make our own splash if we can.
One final question for you with 2 minutes to go.
Go.
Do we start seeing previous history of UFOs like Roswell, Kecksburg, and the like finally get the just desserts of the information?
I would hope so. I would hope so. The goofy thing about Kecksburg, I've always thought that was a Soviet satellite that just came down where it shouldn't have had. But that's always been my opinion. But will we get the straight scoop on this stuff? Maybe, maybe not. But I think if the people in control are really truly want to wake us up to something, because I think something bigger is going on and they need us all to know about it. I really truly think it's like that, and the pressure's on us. We've had too many spacefaring races visiting our planet, and maybe there's one that's got them rattled. Okay, and in back in my mind, that's what I think has happened. I think somebody new has shown up on the landscape, and it's got them rattled, and they know they need to speed this process up a bit.
Sure. Cheryl, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you back on Spaced Out Radio, and especially at this time of year where there's so much exciting news happening, and your work with UAPresearch.com and everything that you're doing. Please keep it up in the new year.
Certainly will. Have me back when the new book comes out.
Anytime you want to come on, you can always come on. Just say, hey, pick a date. Just pick a date, and we'll get you on.
For people who want the original data book, it's available on Amazon. UFO Sightings Desk Reference, United States of America, 2001 to 2015. If you just look up Cheryl Costa in the book section, you'll find the book.
You're one of the best, Cheryl. You really are one of the best, and and very fortunate to call you a friend of this show, and you're a real mentor of mine as well when it comes to researching these topics. And we'll talk soon, because I do have to ask you a few questions off the air, because us journalists like to do that off the record every now and again. But, it's an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much.
Anytime.
Coming up next, we are going to head over to Vancouver. We're going to join up with the Chorus Radio Network. John is filling in for Shane tonight, and we're going to get into some UFOs. Which one should we reinvestigate with the technology that's improved? We got the SOR News Wire. We have the Thought of the Day, a jam-packed final half hour of tonight's show coming up right after this. Great job, my friend. We'll give you a few claps.
Thank you.
Take a bow. Take a bow for us.
Okay.
There you go.
Happy to do it.
Thank you for staying up late. Thank you for being a friend and someone who I very much admire in this field. And all the best to you and your lovely wife coming up in 2021. And like I said, anytime you want to come on, you just let us know.
Well, as we get closer to the book release, I'll be able to send you something, So.
Yeah, not a problem.
So we'll go from there. So have a nice night.
All right, my friend. Happy New Year.
Talk to you later. Bye now. Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Love her. Love her. She's so smart. So smart. I'm going to turn this down so that way it doesn't scare me when we go to Vancouver. Yeah. I'm thinking that'll be a good time. That'll be a good time. Man, I got so many windows open right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, that one can close now. 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, that's good stuff. Good stuff right there. Oh, yeah, great. Itchy eye. That sucks. Big thank you to Gorgeous Teresa, to Bigfoot Rob, to Kay Kaylee, and to Cat Chaser for the amazing super chats tonight. Thank you to everyone who has given us a thumbs up tonight and a thumbs down. We appreciate both. And thank you to everyone who has hit that subscribe button. We're we're at 98.84. So that puts us at what? 116 away from hitting 10,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel. That's exciting. That's very exciting. All right. Hey, Shanna Banana. How are you? Hey, how are you? Shanna Banana. Pickles, you're on fire tonight. You're on fire. Wonder when they're going to call. Usually they call by now. Huh, there they are. Hey, Vancouver.
Dave Scott, Spaced Out Radio. How are you, my man?
I am doing well. Doing well.
Excellent.
So we got John tonight.
Mary. Yeah, we have John tonight. And Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. And say hello to our YouTube chat as they are tuning on in as well.
Hello, YouTubers. How's the... hope you are all enjoying the woo tonight.
Oh, yeah, it's good woo. Actually, we didn't have much woo tonight. We were talking with an investigative journalist named Cheryl Costa, who's been on the UFO trail for a couple of decades here. She's pretty brilliant. So we had her on tonight.
For sure. Hey, are you on a different connection than you usually are, Dave?
No, I'm on the same.
Okay. You just sound very like you're on like a very like low quality internet connection or something.
Oh, weird. No, I've been on the same connection. Do you want to try again? Hang up and maybe...
Yeah, I'll hang out. I'll hang up and try again, and we'll try and come to you real quick. Hold
okay,
right here.
Sounds good.
Oh, hey, it just cleared up.
Oh, did it?
Okay, yeah, you sound great now.
Oh, weird.
Okay, all right. We'll come to you at 36 here.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
In spite of all.
Turn that down. Turn that up. Oh, we don't need that yet. Hey, dirty filth. Dirty filth. Oh, you dirty, dirty man. Terrible times, how are you? Terrible times, how are you? I'm super. Thanks for asking. Let's see here. Hi, Corn's the booking guy. I think someone is listening in to Dave. Not kidding. You are, Corns. You are. By the way, Corns, please give us a mustache update. We'd appreciate that. All right, 20 seconds here. Your daughter colored your mustache pink. Where's my picture? Dude, you got to take care of me that way. You got to take care of me. Here we go. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate it. We want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We're going to connect with John and the Shift here in Vancouver. John, how's it going, man?
Doing well, Dave. How you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Merry Christmas, happy holidays to you and all your listeners. We appreciate you joining you.
Well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to catch up with you. It's our final cross appearance between each other to end 2020. So I'm hoping that you saved the best for last.
Well, I got to ask you, how does Shane get a night off after just getting promoted to full time? Like, what is with that? He's already on the 6 weeks vacation clause or what?
Well, he's worked hard, and maybe he's at this point he's earned it. He's got the right to kick his feet up, and I'm happy to do my thing, fill in where I can, and to connect with you here tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely. So recently, I write for besides doing the show, I'm a busy guy. I also like to bring out those old school journalism skills every now and again, because I think we all get into it because of a piece of writing. But I started looking at some cases here. About 9 historic UFO cases that need current study. Take today's technology and really look into them. And I thought, you know what? What a great way to head on out of 2020 with some UFO talk and some great cases that happened in Canada, the United States, that maybe the public didn't know about. So I thought we'd go there.
I love that, especially since you're right. Like, technology has come such a far way from when UFOs became more of a normal conversation piece. So I'm very fascinated to see if this can happen. If we can bring today's technology into these studies, what are we going to be finding out?
Well, you know what? I want to ask you this, and I'll post this to all of your listeners as well. Can you name me one major UFO event in Canada?
In Canada?
In Canada.
Yeah. Oof. I don't know if I know one off the top of my head, but if I had to guess, I would say there's probably 1 or 2 here in BC because, when you get up northern, when you get to northern BC, you got the woods late at night, perhaps in the summer. You look up at the stars, and all of a sudden you might see something that looks a little strange.
Well, let's start off, let's go back in time, shall we? Before I was born, probably before you were born. Let's go back in time to October 4th, 1967. And we're going to Shag Harbor, Nova Scotia, where it's the middle of the evening, and this weird light is seen coming from the west. And eventually it's getting lower and lower and lower, and all of a sudden there's a giant boom inside Shag Harbor. And hundreds of people eyewitnessed this thing crash into the ocean, and nobody knew what it was. The Mounties were called. There was a Mountie who actually witnessed it. The Canadian Navy, the United States Navy, which has a base in Maine, witnessed this, and they're all wondering what the heck just happened. Canadian Air Traffic Control gets on the phone. They are able to take all of their aircraft that are in the sky or had just landed, and they are able to account for them. They have no idea what has crashed in there. Now, this is known as the Shag Harbor incident. It's pretty much Canada's Roswell. The Navy sent down divers to check this thing out, both American and Canadian Navy divers. They saw it. But the weird part about it is when they went into the water in the same place the next day, whatever it was gone. Vanished. Now, there is some conspiracy theory behind this, that a second craft appeared, and these Navy divers allegedly saw aliens working on this craft that crashed to fix it. Now, whether or not that actually happened, we don't know, but with the hundreds of eyewitnesses that saw this, it is one of Canada's greatest UFO situations that we've had.
That's fascinating, especially because if it's happening at the bottom of the sea there, I mean, over 20 years ago, we saw Titanic, thanks to James Cameron. They brought one of those submarines down to the ocean floor. So what could there be left over? Because I'm sure if there was an accident like that where there was a big explosion and a crash, even if it's gone, I'm sure that there's got to be some remnants of that still left over.
Well, if you look at the Roswell crash or other UFO crash sites or alleged sites, people go in there and they will actually bring metal detectors, and they will still find pieces, because when the military comes in, they do a quick sweep. They get as much as they can that they can find, all the big stuff that may be interested, then they get out. What would be really interesting for Canadian history would be to send down one of these submarines and go down there and see if there is anything metallic still lying on the bottom of Shag Harbor. Now, I'm not going. I have a fear of the ocean because, Nova Scotia is getting a lot of great white sharks around there these days. So I'm not doing that. But I would happily sit on land watching this happen to see if there was anything on. Now, the unfortunate part about it comes down to budget. Okay, renting a submarine to do this costs a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars. But it would be amazing to see if there is any type of crash retrieval evidence still underwater in Nova Scotia.
Absolutely. And I think you bring up the very valid point. Like, if I'm not mistaken, even like the Canadian Navy, they don't have a ton of submarines. People make the joke, like in Canada, you got more submarines in West Edmonton Mall than the Navy does out there in the sea. So even the government, even the military probably looks at this and thinks, well, it's just we don't have the resources. We don't have that kind of money to be investing in these submarines like the U.S. Navy would, for example.
Absolutely. The other one also happened in 1967, but we're going to Manitoba, and this happened in May, where a amateur geologist named Stefan Michalek, okay, and there was a coin, actually both Shag Harbor and the Falcon Lake incident happened to have Canadian mint coins made in 2018 and 2019 of these events, which is very mysterious on its own. But Stefan, here he is walking along the shores of Falcon Lake, and he's looking for silver. He's looking for quartz, when all of a sudden he sees two objects in the sky, and one comes down to ground level, and its door opens up. Now, he doesn't see anything going on. He thinks it's some sort of Canadian or American secret craft that's flying around, because he knew about that kind of stuff. And he walks up to it. He touches the craft. It singes the tips of his fingers. He looks inside, sees lights, sees all these weird buttons, pulls away, and the craft starts to whir. Like it's winding up. All right? And the door on the craft closes, and as it starts to shoot up, it blows some sort of hot air or gas at him. He goes flying back, burns his clothing, burns his hat. It leaves this weird set of dots in a pattern across his chest. Okay, now I know those pieces of clothing are still at the University of Manitoba, I believe, as part of the study, under a great researcher named Chris Rakowski. He knows all about this. He's met with the family many a times about this incident. Wouldn't it be nice to get some technology to see what kind of metamaterial or DNA, if we could use that term, I'm probably not using it right because I'm not a scientist, from that evidence on the clothing? Because it's been sitting there for 50 years, and it would be so cool to get independent researchers to look at that. Now, we probably know the governments of Canada and the United States have already looked at this, but what does the public need to know about what happened to them? Because these burn marks that happened, they kept coming back.
It's fascinating to me because when we hear about things falling from outer space, whether it's asteroids, meteorites, comets, all these things, they usually bring with them radioactive materials, right? Like we know that's where a lot of those materials just come from. The atoms that exist in space when they come to Earth are so foreign to us they can be dangerous. So if these materials are still in that university, and we have more modern technology, better technology to study these things and know exactly what the compounds are, I mean, what could we do with that? See, again, that leads us to the question, where, as you kind of put it, how does it benefit the greater population? And that's really fascinating because a lot of technology, it had to have come from somewhere, Dave, right? That's where, like, we got smartphones now. The technology seems to have just accelerated so quickly over the past 50 years. And a lot of people, I'm sure, suggest that it's not all man-made.
Well, I mean, here's the big thing. Where's it coming from? And why is it being caused? What is happening? And the public has a right to know. The public has a right to know, especially in Canada. We have a right to know what our government knows about this. We do know that they work closely with NORAD regarding these phenomena that are being reported. We know that they work with other governments of the world, namely England and France and Australia, most part of the good Commonwealth, in trying to figure out how this is happening, why is it happening, when is it happening. So we are in the know, but is the public in the know? And if the public isn't in the know, including politicians, how do we get them in the know instead of being naive to the fact that this may or may not be happening? We already have the evidence. What's wrong with bringing that evidence forward? I got another one for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Let's go to Prince George, British Columbia. The Prince George Lights. And we are coming up on the 51st anniversary of this because it happened on January 1st, 1969.
Oh,
and
look at that.
And if you Google this, Prince George Lights UFO, you will actually find an actual police report from the RCMP on this UFO. So here's what happened. Back in the day, Prince George, which is now a town of about 120,000 people, only had about 30,000 residents at this time. And it's January 1st, and if you know Prince George, it's a blue-collar logging, mining type town with a lot of hardworking, good people. And here on New Year's Eve, all of a sudden, a row of orange orb-like lights starts appearing over the sky. And they start glowing, and hundreds of people saw this event happen. So here's what happened. These lights, which hung around for about half an hour, started moving from about 2,000 feet to up to about 10,000 feet. And this is an area which, of course, anything north is patrolled heavily by radar, because if there's any adversary coming in, and we're still in the Cold War at this point, if there's any adversary coming in, they're coming in over the North Pole. So the territories in northern BC, right across Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, very highly looked at with radar. So nothing sneaks in. But these lights kept on hovering there before disappearing. Now, the initial reaction and the initial question that I had was, could it have been fireworks? But we don't have fireworks that jump to 2,000 to 10,000 feet and then just vanish. And to this day, nobody knows what happened. And the people of Prince George, the majority of people there now, have no clue that this incident even took place. But there it is.
Isn't that a great shame? Because if dozens of people back there in '69 saw this happening, I would hope, fingers crossed, that there are still some people here in 2020 who might have been younger and witnessed this for themselves that day on January 1 and can share those testimonies with everybody else. And, I wish it would happen again now with, again, more modern technology where we have so many great, excellent cameras on our phones, and those who have invested more in actual, better cameras to actually get better footage of it now. It would go on the internet and spread like wildfire.
Absolutely. So the gentleman who reported this to RCMP, a gentleman named Mr. Walter Webster, it was 7:30 at night. He describes as 1/8 the size of the moon, yellowish-orange in color with glowing around them. The objects appeared to have a square attachment fastened to the bottom. The top portions of the sphere had diagonal stripes across it. The object above a radiant light and at times appeared very bright. I mean, you got to realize, back then they didn't have drones. So what was it? I'm thinking aliens. It's just so much fun to say it's aliens.
Of course. I mean, that's the easiest, most fun answer to come up with. It's got to be aliens, man.
It's effective.
And I think it's such a great way to do it, especially because now, as we're just days away from New Year's, people can start looking up into the night sky and wondering, hey, that thing that's moving, maybe it's Prince George lights all over again, except now it's happening in different communities across Canada. Dave, it's always such a fascinating chat when we get to connect here. It's our final conversation for 2020. On behalf of Shane and everyone else involved with the show and all of our listeners who really appreciate and enjoy every single time you're with us, Happy New Year.
Thank
and
you.
We look forward to speaking with you in Spaced Out Radio in 2021.
I cannot wait, and you guys have been wonderful to allow us to be part of your program, and it means just the world to our Spaced Out Radio listeners as well. So thank you so much. Happy New Year to you and all of your audience right across Canada, and stay safe. We'll talk to you next year.
You got it. That is Dave.
All right, let's get to the news, shall we? Always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR News Wire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes downright odd. Now, I don't know if you just have read this or not, but there's this guy in Toronto named Justin Fernandez, and, a number of months ago, he was in a bad motorcycle accident. So he's walking to get on the bus, and this guy loses control of his motorcycle and slams into Justin, literally breaking his leg. The leg was so damaged, it had to be removed. Okay, so here he is, gets his leg removed, and he says to the doctors, "Save my leg. I want it." So they did. And now he has his legs go to a taxidermy, and now he has it as an ornament on his desk. Yes, Justin says, "I remember looking at my leg in the hospital. I was going to bury it. I didn't want to have it cremated, as that is the standard procedure. This was taken from me. It wasn't my decision, and I wasn't going to let it be taken from me again," he says from his home in Mississauga, home of Saga 960, where we broadcast. "It was But first, a leg of a long journey, so to speak, pun intended, a journey that would see him negotiate with hospital officials, ethics boards to release his leg to him, and then explain and find a taxidermist that he wasn't attempting to cover up some sort of sinister act. Justin goes on to say, "This is my reward for the battle I went through in hospital. This was a big motivator in my healing journey. But getting a taxidermist was tough. Not many wanted to do it. In fact, one gentleman said he would do it for $15,000. Then a school came around and said, we'll do it for you for free." Yes, Ben Lovett, founder and curator of the Prehistoria Natural History Center, got a call from one of his employees, said, so there's a guy and his leg that was severed, and he really wants to have it prepared. Is that something we should help with? And we could do it at the shop? Said, absolutely. So they did it. And now the young man has his leg once again. Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? It's a nice ornament. It's a conversation piece. Finally, unprecedented times call for the most ugly, unprecedented sweater of all time. Enter the Simply Safe Social Distancing Sweater. You know what it does? It sounds an alarm when other people get within 6 feet. Stupid, dumb, ignorant, taking advantage of people, and I don't like it. I don't like it. Don't like it at all. I'm not even going to read the rest of it. That story just upsets me. Let's just get into something happier. Social distance sweater. You got to be kidding me. I'm not a denier. Not a denier. But this is stupid. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Dave is as follows. Describe what you feel is the biggest UFO story of 2020. Graham starts it off. Patent published of TR-3B variant Light Scout or larger TR-3BB, a cruiser stellar variant. Eric, which story, the fake ones or the real ones? That's why we are Eric's fourth favorite show, people. His fourth favorite show. Marty, one of our favorite veterans who listens to this show. Thank you for the clown, Marty. Flying Tic Tacs, just about as believable as flying reindeer. Kim, am I going with the release of the Phenomena movie? Sure, as the biggest UFO story of 2020, and that film is so much. Keen to hear others' points of view on this question from UFO Twitter. This is Chaos says, Secure Team 10's YouTube channel getting shut down. Cassandra, the Mage Brazil UFO crash. That's a good one, too. All right, let's move on here. Jake, Lou Elizondo leaving TTSA is pretty big. David, what really ever happened in Mage Brazil? Lori, mine, saw one this summer that was awesome and odd. It was in broad daylight, was done cutting the grass, sat on my front deck having a beer, and all of a sudden, bright quarter moon light in the sky. MUFON, I reckon, for Steve. Alex gets the final word, the one we haven't heard anything about yet. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight on YouTube, LGAP, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club on our website, and all the Snarkers and Snarkettes hanging out on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night. But tomorrow, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we got room for them too. Good night.